Dad, Mom will have Uncle Hayes to look after her from now on, so you can rest in peace. They say hearing is the last sense to go before death, and it really seemed to be true. Ethan Johnson died. He died at 55, his adopted son personally removing his oxygen tube. Passing away at 55, not exactly young, but not old either. Anyone who heard would just call it pity. After all, a few more years, and he could have retired comfortably. Now all those pension contributions were wasted. In a daze, Ethan felt his soul leave his body, floating in midair, looking down at the emaciated figure on the hospital bed. Cancer had already ravaged him, and disfigurement from a car accident made the sight unbearable, even to himself. After pulling the tube, his adopted son showed no grief, but instead a smile. Ethan thought with a bitter smile he'd always been disliked. His parents' harsh upbringing offered no affection. The son he'd carefully raised pulled his oxygen tube with cold indifference, and even his wife of 30 years wasn't by his side at the end. He was utterly deserted by everyone. Looking back, his life was filled with regret. He felt like he'd never truly lived for himself, always trying to please and obey, ending up a useless coward, a mere backdrop in his own life. If he could do it over, if there truly was an afterlife, he would never live such a life again. Ethan, why isn't Amelia here yet? Did something hold her up on the road? It's already 11. Give her a call and hurry her along. His mother Margaret's voice rang in his ears. Ethan stared at her, stunned. The Margaret in his memory was wrinkled and white-haired, not this youthful. Besides, she had passed away 10 years ago. Seeing him silent, Margaret frowned in displeasure. I'm talking to you. What are you spacing out for? Pull yourself together. We absolutely cannot mess up this philanthropic gala today. Ethan looked around, the familiar setting, the familiar faces, and his own body, senses fully restored. Ethan finally realized he had been reborn, right back to the day of his and Amelia's engagement party. Because Amelia was conspicuously late, the guests below were already restless. Margaret looked furious, her gaze towards Ethan filled with disgust, nothing like a mother looking at her son. This was high society. Everyone present was someone of status. If Amelia was a no-show today, it would be tantamount to trampling the Johnson family's reputation underfoot. Ethan didn't call Amelia. He knew she wouldn't come. Instead, he headed straight for the outer hall. Margaret stopped him. Where do you think you're going? I told you to call Amelia. Didn't you hear me? Ethan stated calmly, she's not coming. Margaret's expression darkened. How do you know she won't come? Did something happen to her? Of course, he knew. In his previous life, he had waited from morning till night, only to see on the Twitter trends that she was at the Mayo Clinic 310, 69 miles away, celebrating William's birthday. William was Amelia's unforgettable first love, the very same Uncle Hayes his adopted son had mentioned on his deathbed. On this day in his past life, for the sake of both families' reputations, he had stood up, apologized profusely, made excuses for Amelia, and tried to smooth things over. Only later that night did he find out she had ditched the engagement party to be with William. Intimate photos of them quickly hit the Twitter trends. The whole internet knew Amelia had run off for love, and they furiously branded him a third party who had forced his way in. Seeing the Twitter trends had been like a physical blow to Ethan. Friends in their circle had come to offer mock sympathy, telling him he needed courage to face the rumors now that he'd been publicly cheated on. Because of this incident, he was still being mocked for it, even in his 50s. Now, having been reborn at this exact moment, everything could be salvaged. She's celebrating William's birthday right now, Ethan said. 310, 69 miles away. Naturally, she can't make it back. Margaret froze for a second, then exploded. You can't even keep an eye on one woman? What use are you? You useless waste. You've completely disgraced us in front of everyone today. If you don't want to lose face, then cancel the engagement. Margaret looked as if she couldn't believe her ears. What did you say? Ethan repeated clearly. I said, cancel the engagement. I'm not going through with this marriage. Margaret was livid. If you dare cancel this engagement, I'll disown you. She had used that threat plenty of times in his past life. Ethan smiled pleasantly. All right, Aunt Margaret. May I go cancel the engagement now? Ethan was quite tall, forcing Margaret to look up at him. Before she could even process being called Aunt Margaret, Ethan reached out and pushed her aside. Margaret stumbled back, staring in disbelief at Ethan's retreating figure as he walked into the Rosewood Grand Elevator. He seemed like a complete stranger. Ethan's steps were light, his mood buoyant. He looked at his reflection in the Rosewood Grand Elevator doors, presentable, if not extraordinarily handsome, with a straight posture and a healthy vitality radiating from him. No dark circles, No wrinkles, no stomach cancer. He subconsciously touched his stomach. When this was over, he decided he'd treat himself to some buffalo wings. The main hall was noisy. As Ethan stepped out of the Rosewood Grand elevator, murmurs of discussion immediately reached his ears. Why isn't Amelia here yet? Don't tell me it's a shotgun wedding. A perfectly good philanthropic gala, and the guest of honor is missing. The Johnson family is going to be utterly humiliated today. Poor Ethan, really. Chased Amelia for what? 3 years? Finally made it to the engagement, only for this to happen. Let's be real. The Johnson family's current status is nowhere near Harper Enterprises. If Ms. Harper weren't an old acquaintance of the Johnsons, how could Ethan possibly get this chance? If Amelia is having a shotgun wedding, you can almost understand why. Still, even Ethan is better than that minor celebrity William, right? I heard William and Amelia have known each other since they were childhood sweethearts. If Ms. Harper hadn't broken them up and basically driven William out of the country back then, they'd probably have kids together by now. William was a popular celebrity, constantly appearing on Twitter trends. His relationship with Amelia was hardly a secret. Fans even avidly shipped the couple online, calling them a perfect match. Although Ethan was the designated Harper family son-in-law, in Amelia's eyes, he couldn't hold a candle to William, the boy she grew up with. Just as the gossip said, if Ms. Harper hadn't been an old family friend, such a good match would never have fallen to him. In his past life, Ethan had only realized the depth of Amelia's feelings for William after they were already engaged. Something everyone else seemed to see clearly. Only he, like a complete simp, had believed her story that she and William were just like step-siblings. When Ethan learned about this unforgettable love of Amelia's, he had considered calling off the engagement. But the Johnson and Harper alliance, the interwoven business dealings, his parents' authoritarian parenting style, for various reasons, wasn't something he felt he could just back out of. In the end, he went through with the engagement and even the eventual wedding ceremony. It was a loveless business marriage. Even after more than 20 years together, Amelia had no feelings for him. Her heart belonged only to William. Ethan's initial passion slowly cooled over the years. He then poured all his energy into work and making money, living a perfunctory life with Amelia. Even their child was adopted. Who knew that making do would stretch into a lifetime? Thinking about his past life, how he constantly compromised and endured for his parents and the family business, sacrificing himself to please everyone, only to end up riddled with illness and dying alone. Having died once, Ethan had seen things clearly. Some things like genuine family affection and romantic love simply couldn't be forced. Whatever a person fears most tends to gain control over them. So now, Ethan was no longer afraid of loss, nor did he feel the need to worry about the repercussions of his actions. His fiancée ditches the philanthropic gala to be with another man. Such a huge humiliation. If I were him, I'd cancel the engagement on the spot. Ethan wouldn't dare cancel. His family has business ties with Harper Enterprises. They need their cooperation going forward. So, does that mean he'd just be a doormat while his wife cheats in the future? That's just too pathetic. Does he really have to go through with this marriage? Not unless Ethan leaves the Johnson family entirely, gives up his inheritance, the Johnson family trust. Would you be willing to do that in his shoes? Ethan emerged amidst these whispers. The chatter abruptly stopped, all eyes focusing solely on him. There were appraising glances, curiosity, but mostly people were settling in, ready to watch Ethan make a fool of himself. But the 50-year-old Ethan residing in this body had weathered countless storms. He had nothing to hide and nothing to fear. He walked confidently onto the stage with measured steps. Ethan loosened his tie slightly, cleared his throat, and took the microphone from the MC. Sorry to take a moment of your time, he began, his voice calm and clear. I'll be brief. First, thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to attend this event. Amelia couldn't make it today due to personal matters. He paused for effect. What I need to announce is that Amelia and I are canceling our wedding ceremony. She has no feelings for me, and frankly, I have none for her. From this point forward, we go our separate ways, free to pursue our own lives and marry whomever we please. The crowd was stunned silent for a beat, then erupted in disbelieving murmurs. Was Ethan really announcing the cancellation publicly? Just like that? What about the Johnson family's business dealings with Harper Enterprises? Could a high-profile alliance like this just be called off without any warning or PR strategy? Sure, everyone knew Amelia might have feelings for someone else, but Harper Enterprises was incredibly wealthy. They could have lived separate lives after marriage. That wasn't unheard of in their circles. Besides, Amelia was stunningly beautiful. Even if the rumors of a shotgun wedding were true, men would still be lining up to pursue her. But the expected display of humiliation never materialized. Standing on the stage, Ethan seemed to radiate confidence and grace. Every gesture exuded an air of innate nobility. The soft lighting caught his features, lending his face a particular, unexpected charm. By the time people snapped out of their days from looking at him, Ethan had already turned and disappeared backstage. The moment he left, the crowd erupted into buzzing whispers. Some felt Ethan was just acting out of pique. Once his temper cooled, he'd come crawling back to Harper Enterprises, apologizing and begging for forgiveness. It wasn't surprising they thought this way. After all, everyone in their circle had witnessed Ethan chasing Amelia for the past 3 years. He was practically at her beck and call, doing whatever she asked, as obedient as a puppy. How could he just call off the engagement like that? Furthermore, the Johnson and Harper alliance partnership likely wouldn't allow the engagement to be broken. Harper Enterprises might not care much, but the Johnson family was heavily reliant on the cooperation. If Harper Enterprises got upset and cut ties, the Johnson Group would suffer massive losses. The shareholders would raise hell, and Ethan's position as heir would be jeopardized. As a rich heir, he was nothing without his family's backing. Would Ethan really be willing to give up such a vast fortune? The tougher he acted now, the more humiliating it would be when he inevitably came back to apologize. This issue with Harper Enterprises wouldn't blow over easily. Ethan went straight down to the parking garage and drove away. As soon as he got into the car, his father, Richard Johnson, called. "Ethan, you get back here right now. Apologize to everyone. Admit you were wrong." Ethan replied calmly, "Why should I apologize? What did I do wrong? Shouldn't Amelia be the one apologizing?" Hearing this, Richard Johnson on the other end of the line exploded with rage. "What right do you have to make Amelia apologize? Ethan, I'm warning you. We can't afford to offend Harper Enterprises. You better be sensible and obedient. You're 23 years old, not a child anymore. You should focus on the bigger picture. Why did you announce the breakup today without discussing it with us first? Do you even have any respect for your parents? You've caused trouble your whole life. You made your mother collapse from anger. Are you trying to kill her? If she collapsed, she should go to the Mayo Clinic, not complain to me. How dare you speak to me like that? If you don't come back today, then get out and never return." "Fine, I'll start packing right away." With that, Ethan hung up. A moment later, Richard Johnson called again. Not wanting to be disturbed while driving, Ethan blocked the number. He returned to his apartment building. The place wasn't huge, a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment where he lived with Amelia. Although it was a marriage alliance between powerful families, he had genuinely pursued Amelia for 3 years. Her attitude towards him had thawed from initial coldness to something like friendship. While not exactly warm, they could at least live together and had never argued or fought. This peace was entirely built on Ethan's tolerance and constant accommodation. During their year of cohabitation, he handled everything big and small, practically doing the work of 3 people. Amelia disliked takeout, so Ethan learned to cook. She was a bit of a neat freak, so Ethan kept the house spotless. There were many things Amelia disliked handling herself, but being too lazy to do them, she left them all for Ethan. For example, her clothes, he almost always hand-washed them, ensuring they were not only clean, but also wrinkle-free, dried, and lightly scented afterwards. Food was even more complicated. Amelia ate delicately and was extremely picky, refusing this and that. He had spent a long time researching recipes just to satisfy her palate. Because of this, no matter how exhausted he was from work, he would always be home on time to cook dinner. They say marriage requires effort from both sides, but his relationship with Amelia was sustained solely by his efforts. Ethan couldn't help but think of his previous life. He remembered the health report he received back then. Besides the terminal stomach cancer, he suffered from heart and lung failure. Essentially, almost every organ in his body was failing. He had taken care of Amelia, his family, and his children, and ensured his elderly parents lived out their natural lives peacefully, but he had completely neglected himself. Ethan didn't have many belongings. As he packed his daily necessities, he noticed everything was in pairs, constant reminders of Amelia everywhere. He threw out things like the matching couple's mugs and slippers he had bought. In the end, he took only his clothes and some valuable personal items, discarding more than he kept. Ethan asked in the property management's group chat for a scrap collector and called an Aunt Linda to come pick up the discarded items. Things he'd spent a small fortune on originally barely fetched $20 now. As he was about to leave, Ethan felt the engagement ring box in his pocket. He opened it and glanced at the engagement ring meant for Amelia's hand. Now he tossed it into the trash bin. As the ring landed among the rubbish, the immense weight that had been pressing down on his shoulders instantly vanished. Ethan smiled, a genuine smile from the bottom of his heart. "Goodbye, Amelia." Ethan looked away, grabbed his suitcase, and walked out. Mayo Clinic. Amelia suddenly felt a pang of anxiety, an unsettling flutter in her chest. She subconsciously reached for her phone, but couldn't find it. Lying in the hospital bed, William asked, "Are you looking for your phone?" Amelia then remembered she had given her phone to William so she could focus on him, even turning on Do Not Disturb mode. "If you want your phone, I'll give it back. If you want to leave, I won't stop you," William offered. Amelia shook her head. "I just wanted to check the time. If she hadn't come to the Mayo Clinic today, she would probably be making the rounds with Ethan right now, toasting guests at their engagement party." Coming here had been a spur-of-the-moment decision. She hadn't intentionally stood Ethan up. At 8 a.m. that morning, she received a call from William's agent informing her that William had accidentally fallen during an action scene involving wirework. The situation sounded serious, so she had immediately rushed to the Mayo Clinic. William's injury wasn't actually severe, just a sprain that meant he couldn't film for a few days and needed to rest at the clinic. Amelia had initially planned to leave after seeing him, but it was a 3:10, 69-mile trip, a 3-hour drive each way. She would have arrived back very late anyway. Plus, today was William's birthday charity ball. Almost without hesitation, Amelia chose to stay. It was just a philanthropic gala, not their wedding ceremony, she reasoned. If she wasn't there, Harper Enterprises and Ethan could handle things. She'd explain everything properly when she got back tonight. If nothing else, Ethan would surely understand. She could make it up to him by ensuring their wedding ceremony was perfect. Amelia's thinking was simple, based on her perception of Ethan. She saw him as an easygoing, good-tempered man who yielded to her in everything. No matter what mistake she made, he would never blame her. Everyone around them said Ethan was head over heels in love with her. She wouldn't use the word simp to describe him, but she admitted she agreed to the marriage alliance because he treated her incredibly well. Living with him this past year had been very comfortable, so she didn't mind extending that arrangement indefinitely. At noon, it was time for lunch. The meal arranged by Amelia's executive assistant arrived. Since the Mayo Clinic was somewhat remote, there was no 5-star Rosewood Grand Hotel nearby. The assistant had ordered takeout from a highly rated local restaurant. The private hospital room was spacious and well-equipped. Since William's injured leg made it difficult for him to move, the assistant moved a table next to his bed and laid out the food. The dishes were all Amelia's favorites. She glanced at them. The presentation was decent, and they looked appetizing. She picked up her chopsticks and took a few bites, then put them down. William paused eating and looked at her. "Is the food not to your taste?" "I'm not really hungry right now. I don't feel like eating." She was lying to William. Her eating habits were regular. She always got hungry at mealtimes. The real reason she didn't want to eat was simply that the food wasn't as delicious as Ethan's cooking. She hadn't always been this picky. Since being with Ethan, he'd spoiled her, making her increasingly discerning. It really wasn't a good habit, she mused. "I want to check Twitter for a second." William pretended not to hear, focusing silently on his meal. Amelia, usually impatient, reserved all her gentleness for William. She coaxed him. "I just want to see who texted me. Don't worry, no matter what they say, I won't go back. I promised I'd spend your birthday with you, and I keep my word." William was easily persuaded. After watching her for a moment, he handed over the phone. It was past midnight anyway. Even if Amelia did decide to leave, by the time she got there, the wedding reception would be long over. Amelia took the phone and saw a flood of missed calls and texts from friends, her parents, countless relatives, but none from Ethan. She'd abruptly skipped the wedding today without telling Ethan. She'd expected frantic calls and texts from him, but there was nothing. Her parents were worried, assuming something terrible had happened for her to miss it. Wasn't Ethan worried too? Logically, Ethan was unimportant to her. Whether he texted or not shouldn't matter. Yet, for some reason, she felt an emptiness inside, and the food she'd just swallowed suddenly turned sour in her stomach. Amelia didn't dwell on it. After all, her marriage to Ethan was practically a done deal. He adored her. He wouldn't make a fuss over this. And frankly, even if he did, what could he do about it? Despite this reasoning, a faint unease lingered. What she was uneasy about, she couldn't quite pinpoint. After finishing the meal with William, Amelia peeled some fruit for him and brewed him a cup of floral tea. Being personally cared for, even in these small ways, by the pampered heiress who usually wouldn't lift a finger, satisfied William. Amelia was the woman he wanted, and he absolutely wouldn't let her marry anyone else. While William took an afternoon nap, Amelia managed to slip outside. She called Aaron and the driver over, asking quietly if anyone had called asking about her. The driver pulled out his phone and showed Amelia the call log for the day. She scanned it but still didn't find Ethan's name. Amelia didn't dare contact her parents, so she secretly called a friend to ask about the situation at the hotel. She felt a pang of guilt mentioning Ethan's name. As soon as the call connected, her friend's rushed voice came through. "Amelia, something huge happened. Ethan called off the engagement." Amelia froze, clearly not processing it. "Called off what? Because you didn't show up today?" Ethan announced it in front of everyone. "He's breaking off the engagement. Said you weren't interested in him, and he wasn't interested in you, and you should both go your separate ways." "What about his parents? Didn't they stop him?" Amelia knew the Johnson family situation perfectly well. There was no way they'd allow Ethan to break the engagement. Ethan just announced it and left. His parents stayed behind, apologizing profusely. Judging by their reaction, the Johnsons definitely don't want to break ties with Harper Enterprises. Ethan probably doesn't have the guts to defy his family anyway. He's nothing without them. But hey, even if it's really off, it's not a big deal. The Johnsons need Harper Enterprises more than you need them. You don't even like him. Bye-bye to this one. The next one will be better behaved. It's his loss if he wants to call it off. Only Amelia knew finding someone better behaved than Ethan was impossible. The rich kids in their circle were used to being spoiled and catered to. Amelia had seen plenty of arrogant men. Someone like Ethan was rare. Those as obedient weren't as handsome. Those as handsome weren't as rich. The rich ones weren't as considerate or devoted. Besides Ethan, Amelia couldn't think of anyone else who would cook, clean, dote on her completely, and always consider her feelings first. Even William fell far short in comparison. Amelia felt like ants were crawling under her skin. Her friend continued mocking Ethan on the phone, but Amelia barely registered the words. What did her friend mean? Ethan wasn't interested in her. The way he pursued her, always available at her beck and call, letting her order him around. How could he possibly not care? Not only did her friends not believe it, Amelia didn't believe it either. Amelia knew she was in the wrong. Ditching Ethan alone at the wedding had been humiliating for him. She'd just get him a gift tonight to smooth things over. Anyway, for now, Amelia had no intention of actually breaking off the engagement. "Okay, I've got stuff to do here, gotta go." Her friend asked curiously, "Are you with William now?" "Yeah, it's such a shame about you two." Setting aside William's family background, you and he are the real childhood sweethearts. If you ask me, it's your grandpa's fault for being so old-fashioned, still insisting on matching social statuses in this day and age. Apart from being richer, Ethan is miles behind William in every other way. A strange flicker of annoyance rose in Amelia. She didn't want to hear Ethan being bad-mouthed like this. Of course, Amelia didn't defend Ethan either. She wanted to ask her friend more about him, but worried people would misunderstand and think she actually cared about him. Amelia felt incredibly conflicted. Finally, she said coolly, "I have things to do. Hanging up now." After hanging up, Amelia leaned against the wall, picking up her phone and putting it down several times. Ethan's number was on the screen. She hesitated for a long time, but ultimately didn't call. Ethan calling off the engagement was just him throwing a tantrum. He'd calm down and think things through eventually. The Johnson and Harper alliance involved too many interests. This wasn't some ordinary couple breaking up after a silly argument. They were engaged. How could they just call it off like that? Amelia couldn't help but resent Ethan. Why be so impulsive, so reckless? Why not think about her? What good did making such a scene do him? William woke up after a short nap. Neither of them mentioned her engagement. Although Amelia's mind was elsewhere, she resisted the urge to check her phone in front of William. At 6 in the evening, an assistant brought in a birthday cake. It was William's birthday, but he'd thoughtfully gotten her favorite flavor. The cake had number candles, a 2 and a 4. Today was William's 24th birthday. Amelia took the lighter, lit the candles, and told William to make a wish. William closed his eyes. "I wish Amelia can be happy every day, and I wish you'll be by my side for my birthday every year." Amelia, who had started singing Happy Birthday, stopped abruptly. Meeting William's expectant gaze, she said, "Wishes don't come true if you say them out loud." "Really? I don't believe that." This wish wasn't impossible. It depended on Amelia's attitude towards him. She was just spending his birthday with him. Objecting even to this wish would be too much of a killjoy. William cut a slice of cake and placed it on her plate. "You barely ate anything at lunch. You must be hungry now." "I'm okay." With so much weighing on her mind, she hadn't even realized she was hungry. She didn't even feel like eating cake right now. Amelia picked off the cherry from the cake and ate it. The dark red fruit burst in her mouth, filling it with sweet juice. The ingredients were fresh, but to Amelia, it tasted like ash. Her mind was consumed with how she would face Ethan when she got back. William noticed her distraction. He suppressed the shadow in his eyes, his expression unchanging. William, someone took a picture of you going to the Mayo Clinic and posted it online. It's trending on Twitter now. Halfway through the cake, his manager, Aaron, rushed in with his phone. This is trending on Twitter? Let me see. William held out his hand. Aaron glanced, deliberately yet casually, at Amelia, who was trying to act uninvolved as he handed the phone to William. It's one thing for you to be trending, but the problem is it's drag Ms. Harper into it. Someone posted about her online, saying she skipped her engagement party to come see you. Look at the comments, there are pictures and everything. Proof, they call it. It's too late for emergency PR now. Hearing her name, Amelia's expression changed. She pulled out her phone and scrolled. Sure enough, the trend about William was topping the Twitter charts, right in the #1 spot. Hashtag rising star injured on set. Rumored girlfriend by his side for birthday. The photo showed Amelia standing outside the hospital room in a white formal gown with a long train, a small tiara in her hair. She looked exactly like a runaway bride. A single candid shot, yet it told a whole story. William broke into Hollywood shortly after returning to the country. His striking looks quickly earned him a place, and after playing the second male lead in a hit fantasy drama, his fanbase exploded to over 50 million followers, making him a top star. His career is just taking off, relying heavily on fan support, so even baseless relationship rumors could potentially hurt him. However, underneath these comments, many fans were actually supportive. William turned 24 today. He's old enough to date. OMG, I love this girlfriend for him. A huge star with the Harper Enterprises heiress? This is the plotline we needed. Is William badly hurt? My heart aches seeing this. Good thing his girlfriend is there with him. His girlfriend's gorgeous, easily rivals any actress in the industry. And she's loaded too? I'm planning myself here. Let's see who dares say a bad word about her. I heard they're childhood sweethearts. They had this epic romance back in school, but broke up due to family pressure. Now he's a superstar, she's a CEO, and they meet again. How is this not a second chance at love? I totally ship it. Looked her up. Her family background is insane. A true heiress. Rumor has it she got engaged to some rich heir from an equally prominent family. No way. Is a ship I just started sailing about to sink? Not a rumor, it's fact. There are pics. Amelia ditched her engagement party today to take care of her ex, William. This is straight out a novel. Love conquers all. Sincerely hope these two end up together. What century is this? Are we still doing the authoritarian parenting style? I work as a bellman at the Rosewood Grand Hotel. The groom side already called off the engagement. Ethan Johnson called it off. Guess he knows his place. Knew he couldn't compete with William. Knew he wasn't good enough for Amelia. Where there were blessings, there was also slander, but it was all directed at Ethan. People said he wasn't worthy of Amelia, that he only got close to her because of his background, even calling him a simp who interfered and ruined a true romance. Amelia's eyelid twitched as she read. It was just one thing after another. She couldn't believe Ethan calling off the engagement had also been leaked, seemingly straight to TMZ. How could the Rosewood Grand Hotel be so careless? How could they leak private information like that? William put down the phone and took Amelia's hand. People online will believe anything they hear. I don't really care, but this business about you and Ethan Johnson. Should I post something online to clarify? Clarify what? It was a fact that she ditched Ethan, leaving him alone at their engagement party. The thought that Ethan would also see these trends made her heart inexplicably heavy, like a stone settling in her chest. William sighed. This is all my fault. Ethan only called off the engagement because of me. I told Aaron not to tell you I was hurt. It wasn't even that serious. Amelia said firmly, this isn't your fault. I chose to come here. You just rest. I'll handle the online situation. William's talent agency was a subsidiary of Harper Enterprises. Amelia herself had personally drawn up his contract when he signed. His rapid rise to fame was largely thanks to her support. His manager, Aaron, knew about their relationship. He frequently updated Amelia on William's status, trying to keep them close, and would even intentionally leak minor tidbits to the paparazzi to test the waters. Amelia and William's ambiguous relationship was an open secret in their circle. Everyone was just waiting for them to make it official. Aaron desperately hoped they would confirm their relationship. If William could secure a firm tie to Harper Enterprises, it would be a massive boost to his career, taking it to the next level. Catching a look from William, Aaron cleared his throat and asked Amelia, Ms. Harper, regarding Mr. Johnson, do you think I should perhaps reach out and explain things? Amelia pulled her hand away. No need. Before William could feel pleased, Amelia continued, "Have the PR team release something else, something big enough to overshadow this trend. Distract the netizens for now. It'll blow over in a few days. That's Hollywood for you, never short on news scandals. Today's top trend is tomorrow's forgotten news. The gossip changes daily. Only the eager onlookers remain the same. In this fast-paced life, how many people really remember things from the internet for long?" As for Ethan Johnson, Amelia paused, then said gently, "I'll explain it to him myself. He'll understand." William's expression stiffened abruptly. For Amelia to humble herself and offer a personal explanation, it seemed Ethan Johnson held a rather high place in her heart. Amelia felt uneasy. It had started as something minor, but now it was public knowledge. The more she thought about it, the more frustrated she became. She picked at her cake for a couple of bites, then put her fork down. William looked at the cake. "You're not eating anymore?" "I'm not hungry. Too much cake isn't good. I need to watch my figure." "You're not fat." William's gaze lingered on her figure. Amelia had always had a perfect figure. The gown she wore today was custom-made, highlighting her slender waist. Beneath the hem, her legs were long, straight, and pale. Amelia didn't respond to his comment, changing the subject instead. "I need to step out and make a call." Seeing her troubled expression, William didn't dare make a fuss or stop her. He could only watch her leave, his hand resting on the blanket clenching into a fist. Aaron whispered, "You don't think Ms. Harper is actually starting to care about Ethan Johnson, do you?" William's face darkened. 5 years abroad. It had been too long. Long enough for Amelia to fall for someone else. He should have realized sooner. A woman like Amelia always attracted attention. Even though William was laid up in a hospital, he knew exactly what had happened at the engagement party. The bride fled, the groom called it off. Back then, Harper Enterprises hadn't approved of him, so they'd arranged this marriage for Amelia. Now that it had blown up so spectacularly, humiliating them online and turning them into a laughingstock, it was simply poetic justice. William sneered. "So what if she cares about him? Isn't the engagement already off? And even if it weren't, I wouldn't let them be happy together." After leaving, Amelia called the PR manager and asked them to suppress the Twitter trends. Little needed to be said, they understood. Hanging up, she checked Twitter again. The online buzz had only intensified, and her account had been dug up. Fortunately, she rarely posted, so there were no scandals to unearth. She had hoped the situation would die down, but now, her DMs and comments were flooding in, both showing 99+, making it impossible to ignore. To stop the flood of comments calling her sister-in-law, Amelia posted a clarifying tweet. "Just friends." The moment the tweet went live, William saw it from his hospital bed. His already dark expression grew even gloomier, and he pressed his lips together tightly. After posting the tweet, Amelia called Benjamin Harper. Benjamin Harper answered and immediately laid into Amelia. "What were you thinking? Ditching the birthday charity ball, practically running out on your own engagement, to run off to the Mayo Clinic with William is bad enough, but getting caught and plastered all over the internet. Do you have any idea how much trouble this causes for Harper Enterprises?" Benjamin Harper usually doted on his daughter and rarely even raised his voice, so for him to be yelling into the phone showed just how furious he was. Amelia stayed quiet, taking the scolding obediently. Only when she heard him pause for breath did she say, "Dad, I know I messed up. I'll go back tonight and apologize. About the Johnson family. The Johnsons wouldn't dare say anything to you. What about Ethan? I heard he wants to call off the engagement." "You certainly hear things quickly." From her father's tone, it was clear he didn't realize Ethan's threat was already public knowledge online. His parents wouldn't dare break the engagement. So what makes that little punk think he can? He hasn't even finished growing up yet. Ethan doesn't have many merits, but his strengths are that he loves you, treats you well, and respects his parents. This tantrum about breaking the engagement is just an impulse. He'll calm down. You were in the wrong first on this one, so smooth things over with him privately. Let him save face. Don't let it get too ugly. It's not like Harper Enterprises needs him. Benjamin Harper's words clearly showed he thought he had Ethan figured out, believing the boy wouldn't dare lose her. It seemed everyone thought so. Her friends, her father. This bolstered Amelia's confidence. "I understand. I'll talk to him properly." Benjamin Harper reminded her, "Come back soon, and don't get too close to William. Avoid causing a scandal in Hollywood that will be hard to clean up." While the Johnson family couldn't compare to Harper Enterprises, they were still a prominent family in Rosewood City. Ethan was a rich heir who had enjoyed the best of everything since birth, leagues above William, the driver's son. Plus, Ethan had a good personality, was obedient and smart. Amelia wouldn't have to worry about being mistreated if she married him. He had chosen his son-in-law very carefully. Amelia was his only daughter. The vast Harper Enterprises would be hers someday. Wouldn't she need someone capable and sensible? Amelia had heard this spiel countless times and never paid it much mind. To placate her father, she just murmured an. After the call with her father, Amelia felt considerably lighter. She then called Ethan. The call connected but went unanswered. Amelia paused, then shrugged it off, figuring he was probably busy. Returning to the hospital room, Amelia's first words were about William's leg. Is your leg still hurting? The anesthesia has worn off. It's starting to hurt now. Should I call the doctor? No need. I can handle this bit of pain. William acted as if nothing was wrong. He and Amelia had known each other for over a decade. William came from a single-parent family, raised by his father, who was a driver for Harper Enterprises. When William was 6, his father was driving Mrs. Harper out of town on business when they had an accident halfway. Both died in the crash. Neither could be saved. Since then, Benjamin Harper couldn't stand the sight of him. William knew Benjamin blamed his father for his wife's death. But William thought if Mrs. Harper hadn't insisted on that long trip and made his father drive her, his dad wouldn't have died in that crash either. So whose fault was it really? Fortunately, Amelia hadn't inherited this resentment. She treated him as well as ever, even seeing him as a kindred spirit, because they had both lost their closest loved one. In their tender, budding youth, feelings grew between them. Their bond went beyond friendship, closer than lovers, almost like family. 6 years ago, Amelia would never have favored Ethan over him. Amelia was beautiful and smart, standing out distinctly among her peers. As the sole heiress to Harper Enterprises, she had enjoyed the finest things life offered since birth. Her brilliance, built on wealth, was something William could never catch up to, no matter how hard he tried. When Benjamin Harper sent him abroad, he resolved to become mature and successful enough to return to her side, hoping then no one would say he wasn't worthy of her. But he underestimated the power of time and distance. When he heard from abroad that Amelia was to marry Ethan in a strategic alliance, he fiercely hated his own powerlessness. He rushed back home. Although Amelia still cared for him, as she always had, he had to admit their connection had faded with time. Has PR handled it? Did Ethan call you? Didn't the internet say he wants to break off the engagement? Something this huge, and he decides without even discussing it with you? Isn't that incredibly disrespectful? Well, I stood him up first. It's normal for him to be angry. Ethan had never lost his temper with her before, so Amelia found it rather unusual. It wasn't that Amelia was magnanimous. She simply didn't take Ethan's attitude seriously. William continued. Ethan's just putting on airs. A grown man being so petty, threatening to break the engagement over the slightest thing, with no regard for Harper Enterprises or your reputation. If he dares to throw a tantrum in front of friends and family now, he'll dare to lay hands on you later. Don't take him too seriously this time. It's best to give him the cold shoulder for a couple of days and make him come crawling back to apologize. Her friends and William were all saying the same thing. Amelia had her doubts initially, but now she thought they might have a point. Your Lady Harper, even his parents have to show you respect. What right does Ethan have to throw a fit at you? Announcing he wants to break the engagement publicly? Isn't he afraid of overplaying his hand? William knew Amelia. She was proud. The more he built up her image, the less likely she was to back down. Gradually, she would convince herself she wasn't in the wrong. William refused to believe he couldn't break them up. Is that really okay? William smiled. I'm a man. I know his type. If you bow your head first this time, it'll only get worse. You need to understand, your status will always be higher than his. My calf feels a bit uncomfortable. Could you massage it for me? William propped himself up, deliberately looking like he had difficulty moving. He was handsome, and showing appropriate weakness could trigger a woman's nurturing instincts, making her more concerned about his well-being and emotional state. Amelia didn't have time to think. Her attention quickly diverted. She stood by the corner of the bed, touching his calf. Ethan had no idea how people were talking about him. Having just broken off his engagement, he was busy looking for a place to live and a job. He blocked both Richard and Margaret Johnson. When they couldn't reach him, they simply cut off his credit cards. They thought that leaving him penniless would make him admit he was wrong, come crawling back, and meekly obey their arrangements. But he was 24, not 14. He'd started earning his own money back in high school and hadn't taken a dime from them throughout college. The funds he had were more than enough for his immediate future. Ethan rented a 2-bedroom apartment. It wasn't large, but it was cozy and nicely furnished. Located in a prime area, the rent was steep, running between $3,000 and $4,000 a month. Liking the place, Ethan paid the deposit and signed the lease. He didn't own much, so moving in was easy. After settling in, he stretched out on the sofa, turned on the TV, and flipped to the hottest reality show currently airing. Coincidentally, one of the guests was William Hayes. They say the camera adds 10 pounds, making faces look wider and less attractive. Stars who looked decent on TV were often even more stunning in person. Ethan watched for a while, then started feeling hungry. Instead of ordering takeout, he went downstairs to the farmer's market, bought some groceries, and made himself a simple bowl of noodles. By 9 that evening, Richard Johnson, having heard nothing from Ethan, was starting to get anxious. He borrowed someone else's phone and sent Ethan a terse text message. If Ethan insisted on breaking the engagement, it meant disowning his parents. And if he disowned them, he'd have to repay them for the cost of raising him all these years. Ethan opened the attachment, detailing the supposed costs, and almost laughed. The grand total they demanded, covering various expenses big and small, was a staggering $300 million. $300 million. You'd think he'd been working some illicit, high-paying job for them all these years. As far back as he could remember, his parents hadn't liked him. People say no parents truly dislike their own child. If they seem to, there must be a reason. Ethan once had a sister, Catherine. Everyone told him that he, as a young boy, had thrown Catherine, who was a couple of years younger, off the second-floor balcony, killing her. They say people don't retain memories from before the age of 5, but for some reason, Ethan vividly remembered the pool of blood on the ground that day. After that, his mother lost her mind. Whenever she saw him, she would hit him, curse him, call him a demon, claim he had XYY syndrome, that he was a born terrorist. Every day, Ethan lived with self-loathing, self-destruction. It felt like an axe hung perpetually over his head, and he constantly anticipated its fall, wishing it would sever the thread of his short life. If he died, would his parents stop hating him? If he died, could he go from hell to heaven? If he died, could he see his sister again and tell her he was sorry? When he was 6, his elderly grandma Miller took the bruised and battered boy to live with her in Greenfield Township. She raised him for 10 years. During that entire decade, his parents ignored him completely. Richard Johnson claimed Margaret was ill, on medication, and that seeing Ethan triggered her condition, so Ethan shouldn't disturb them. And indeed, whenever Ethan did see Margaret Johnson, she flew into a rage, screaming that he was a murderer who didn't deserve to live. He had seen Dr. Murphy had undergone tests. Dr. Murphy assured him he didn't have XYY syndrome. He was genetically normal, not the natural-born demon his mother claimed he was. In his previous life, Ethan had lived cautiously, burdened by remorse and guilt, striving to be filial, desperate for his parents' forgiveness. He never dared defy any arrangements they made for him, any hint of resistance, and they would invoke his sister's death, using it as moral high ground to curse and guilt-trip him. If Ethan hadn't been reborn, he might have continued living this life of thankless toil, only learning the truth after Richard Johnson's death. How could a 5-year-old child possibly lift his 3-year-old sister and throw her over a balcony railing 94 feet high? Margaret Johnson was genuinely ill, but Richard Johnson wasn't. Whether to placate his wife or simply out of ingrained authoritarian habit, he chose to keep the secret, making a 5-year-old boy carry the weight of a death for 50 years. Under this upbringing, Ethan lived up to their twisted expectations, a compliant puppet who fulfilled their needs by destroying himself. How could Ethan not resent them? They gave birth to him, but didn't raise him. Grandma Miller was the one who raised him. Why did they have to demand $300 million in child support? Why did they have to exploit him? He wouldn't fall into the same trap twice. Since they believed he couldn't survive without the Johnson family, he would sever ties completely. After finishing his noodles, Ethan contacted a lawyer. He explained the situation from beginning to end and sent over a spreadsheet detailing his expenses over the years. The lawyer objectively informed him that legally severing ties with parents was impossible. However, the lawyer could help him formally distance himself from the Johnson family, potentially limiting his future obligations to only contributing to their support after they turned 60. Extricating himself from the Johnson family wouldn't be easy. In his early 20s, Ethan had no money or status in Rosewood City. He could earn money, but without status, he feared the Johnsons would interfere and make his life difficult. Ethan decided to use the truth to burn his bridges with them completely. Richard Johnson was a born egoist, obsessed with appearances. The story of a 5-year-old accidentally knocking his sister off a balcony sounded far better than the truth. His wife, in a fit of madness, had killed their daughter. Blaming a 5-year-old deflected responsibility. People discussing it would conclude the child was too young to understand. Besides, a child that age wouldn't face prison time or legal culpability for manslaughter. If Ethan chose to leak this story to TMZ, it was debatable who held the power over whom. He worked on this straight through until the early hours of the morning. Stretching his stiff muscles, Ethan picked up his phone and saw several missed calls from Amelia Harper. He'd had his phone on silent and hadn't heard it ring. Of course, even if he had heard it, he wouldn't have answered. He didn't want anything ruining his mood before sleep. His inbox was also cluttered with random messages, mostly from people fishing for gossip. Ethan marked them all as read with a single tap, tossed the phone aside, grabbed his clothes, and headed into the bathroom for a shower. Meanwhile, Amelia Harper had kept her promise, staying with William Hayes until his birthday charity ball ended before leaving. Although she hadn't done much all day, she felt utterly exhausted. She wanted to rest, maybe take a short nap, but sleep wouldn't come. Amelia Harper massaged her throbbing temples, glanced at the night cityscape outside the car window, and pulled out her phone to call Ethan again. Still no answer, just the cold, automated tone grating on her nerves. What was wrong with Ethan? Not answering during the day could be excused. Maybe he was busy, tied up with something, but it was the middle of the night now. Surely, whatever he was doing was finished. Don't even suggest he was asleep. Even if he were dreaming, he should have picked up her call. She knew her contact information was pinned to the top of his list, marked as a favorite, with a custom ringtone and notification alert just for her. No matter when she called, he always answered immediately. He was always available, on call for her. Midnight? Hell, if she called him at 3 a.m. asking him to drive out of town to pick her up, he'd get up without a second thought. She had already called him 4 times today. It was impossible that Ethan hadn't seen them. Ethan couldn't possibly have missed her calls, which meant he was deliberately ignoring her. Hadn't enough time passed? Was he still mad? What on earth was he playing at? Miss, we've arrived in Rosewood City. Where would you like to go? Amelia had originally planned to go to Harper Enterprises first to apologize to Benjamin Harper. But with Ethan persistently ignoring her calls, she felt agitated and annoyed, wanting to confront him directly. A grown man throwing a tantrum, being so petty. Was that really necessary? She fumed inwardly. So she missed one event? It wasn't like she'd run off with someone else. She'd already swallowed her pride to reach out. So why wasn't he answering her calls? Seething, Amelia gave the driver the address of the apartment building, the home she shared with Ethan. The hallway was quiet. No one else was around at this hour. Instead of using her key, Amelia rang the doorbell. She pressed it several times, but there was no response from inside. Amelia stamped her foot, glaring darkly at the door as if she could burn a hole through it. She's right here, and he won't even open the door? Seeing her fury, the driver who had waited cautiously asked, Miss, perhaps Mr. Johnson isn't home. Amelia faltered. If he wasn't here, where could he be? Could he have gone back to his family? Ethan hated going back to the Johnson estate. He rarely even went for Thanksgiving. There was no place for him there. Amelia understood better than anyone just how difficult Ethan's position was. Yet, she had still abandoned him at such a crucial event the day before, leaving him to be ridiculed and likely reprimanded by his parents. Amelia paused, then remembered the spare key hidden under the flower pot by the door. Ethan had put it there for her because she was always forgetting hers. The key had been there for ages, but this was the first time Amelia had ever needed it. Whenever she came home, Ethan was either with her or already inside. She usually just had to ring the bell, and the door would open. Amelia unlocked the door and stepped into darkness. Flipping on a light, switch revealed the apartment they had shared for a year. Yet something fell off. There was a subtle wrongness everywhere that made her uneasy. First, she noticed fewer shoes by the door. Then, the kitchen seemed bare, the water glass usually on the table was gone, and even the books and files on the bookshelf had vanished. Someone clueless might think they'd been robbed, but even Amelia quickly realized what was happening. She rushed into Ethan's bedroom. The closet was empty. Staring at the empty closet, Amelia stood frozen for a long moment. How could Ethan leave? If he left, would he come back? Usually around this time, if Ethan wasn't asleep, he'd be at his desk working. When he wasn't busy, he'd clean the apartment meticulously, never missing a single corner. His cooking was amazing. If she got hungry late at night, he'd make her healthy meal prep, mindful of her figure. People always said meal prep tasted bland, but Ethan's was delicious. She always finished every bite. His toiletries in the bathroom were gone too. Their matching mugs, slippers, towels. Ethan had bought them all. Amelia had liked the matching sets, so they'd kept them. Now, only her things remained. The little pottery figure they'd made together at a workshop on their first date, which had sat on the TV stand for a year, was gone. She rarely paid attention to these small things, often overlooking them completely. But now that they were missing, they suddenly felt incredibly significant. Amelia scanned the room again. Her eyes landed on the wastebasket. Inside, she saw a small, empty ring box. Picking it up, she recognized it instantly. It had held the promise ring Ethan had bought for her a long time ago. He'd thrown the box away. Amelia clenched the empty box tightly in her hand, silent. Outside, the driver watched with concern, noticing her eyes were red. Whether from anger or hurt, he couldn't tell. She had assumed Ethan's announcement about breaking the engagement at the birthday charity ball was just an impulsive act, something he'd get over in a couple of hours. She never imagined he'd actually move out without a word. It seemed he was serious about ending things. She hadn't expected someone usually so quiet to be this ruthless. Even a cornered rabbit will bite, let alone a person, she thought bitterly. Miss, the driver interrupted her thoughts. Where will you be staying tonight? Amelia sank weakly onto a chair. On impulse, she slipped the actual promise ring, which she found discarded near the box, onto her middle finger. Then, she pulled out her phone and called Ethan again. When the first call went unanswered, she immediately tried again. The calls rang through, indicating he hadn't blocked her number yet. When voice calls failed, she tried FaceTime. Finally, as she was about to dial for the 7th time, Ethan answered. What is it? His voice was hoarse, laced with exhaustion. Amelia had intended to lash out, but hearing his voice, the angry words died on her lips. Where are you? She asked instead. It's almost 3 in the morning, Ethan replied. Surely you're not planning on coming over now. Shouldn't you be the one coming to me? Amelia thought, but remained silent. Ethan continued. I was asleep. Whatever it is, we could talk tomorrow. Bye. He hung up. Amelia stared blankly at her dark phone screen. He just hung up? Only after the call ended did the full coldness of Ethan's tone sink in. He sounded like a completely different person. Furious, she tried calling back, but this time his phone went straight to voicemail. He turned it off. Amelia turned back to the waiting driver. I'll stay here tonight. You can go. Once the driver had left, she sent Ethan a text message. Come see me tomorrow morning. Amelia slept terribly, tossing and turning all night. Just as drowsiness finally began to claim her, dawn broke. Nursing a headache, she got up. Her phone showed it was only 7 a.m. While getting ready, she checked her phone constantly, hoping for a reply from Ethan, but there was nothing. At 8 a.m., Amelia couldn't wait any longer and called Ethan. This time, he picked up almost immediately. Her patience worn thin, Amelia demanded curtly. When are you coming over? I'm having breakfast, Ethan replied calmly. If you want to see me, come to the Cupcake Bakery on 2nd Street. It's not far from the apartment. Didn't I tell you to come here? Ethan countered. You're the one who wanted to talk. If you don't want to meet, fine. I'm busy today. Afraid he'd hang up on her again, Amelia suppressed her anger and forced out through gritted teeth. Fine. I'll see you there at 9. After hanging up, Amelia put on some makeup and chose a striking red dress, hoping to mask her exhaustion and pale complexion. Noticing it was already 8:50, she slipped on her high heels and calmly hailed a cab to the Cupcake Bakery. Ethan was already there when she arrived. A cup of steaming hot coffee sat before him. He carefully tore open 2 packets of sugar and stirred them in with a small spoon. It was a simple action, yet somehow, the way he did it was captivating. Ethan looked different today, more striking than usual. Amelia slowed her approach, observing him more closely. His hair was styled differently, swept back from his forehead, accentuating his features. His complexion was healthy, much better than hers. It was obvious he had slept well, completely unaffected by the previous day's drama. Ethan saw her too. If this had been before, he would have gotten up, gone to her side, and pulled out her chair. But now, he remained firmly seated, only glancing up slightly in acknowledgement. Seeing Amelia as she was in her youth again stirred something in Ethan. So this is what she looked like back then, he mused. It feels like a lifetime ago. Beauty defies age, and Amelia seemed especially favored by time. In his past life, even past 50, she looked barely 30. Radiant complexion, slender figure, nary a wrinkle nor a gray hair in sight. She was healthier than many people half her age. Unlike him, dead before he could even retire. At this thought, Ethan's mind wandered. After I died in my last life, Amelia must have married William soon after, he speculated. They probably grew old together, living long, happy lives. Ethan, the sharp call from across the table snapped Ethan back to the present. Ethan composed himself, a faint smile touching his lips. Have a seat. Scan the QR code if you want to order something. His tone was friendly enough. While their marriage in his past life had been filled with unhappiness at its core, both he and Amelia had been sacrifices to that arranged union. Though loveless, their marriage had spanned 3 decades, marked by a certain polite distance, a mutual respect akin to how one treats an honored guest. Now, he felt neither dislike nor fondness for her. Treating her like a familiar stranger seemed best. Ideally, after today, they'd have no reason to interact ever again. Amelia glared at him, her eyes wide and bloodshot, rimmed with red, as if she'd been grievously wronged. Was it because I didn't offer to buy her coffee? Ethan wondered. Probably not. He remembered Amelia disliked anything bitter. They'd never been to this cafe before, and she was notoriously picky. Ordering something she didn't like would only sour her mood further. Amelia sat down, fixing Ethan with a stare. Don't you have anything you need to explain? She demanded. Explain what? Why move out all of a sudden? I called off the engagement. Living together wouldn't exactly be appropriate, would it? Amelia's voice rose, laced with disbelief. You're really calling off our engagement? I announced it in front of everyone. Did you think I wasn't serious? Ethan chuckled lightly. I saw the Twitter trends last night. You and William clearly have feelings for each other. Skipping our engagement announcement to be with him for his birthday. I believe you care for him, so I won't stand in your way. Marriage should be mutual. Forcing it never leads to happiness. At his words, the tension in Amelia's brow eased slightly. If this is about William, if you're upset with me because of him, I can explain. I didn't intentionally ditch our engagement announcement yesterday to celebrate his birthday. He got injured on set. His agent called, said it was serious, and I was worried something truly bad might happen. Ethan, we can reschedule the wedding ceremony. Harper Enterprises will handle the fallout. If you want compensation, name it. I'll do my best to meet your demands. She laid it all out. A man shouldn't keep harping on it after such an explanation. Is Amelia actually backing down? Ethan thought, surprised. That's a first. Ethan raised a surprised eyebrow, though his expression remained gentle. I've made myself perfectly clear. There's no affection between us. If you just need someone for an advantageous marriage, please find another candidate. The moment he finished speaking, Ethan saw Amelia's expression plummet, darkening instantly. What do you mean? No affection between us, she snapped. Everyone knows you're hopelessly in love with me. Ethan blinked, momentarily thrown. Loving Amelia, that felt like ancient history. He'd honestly forgotten what it even felt like. His abrupt change must have unsettled her. Ethan decided he needed to be absolutely clear to prevent any future misunderstandings. I don't love you anymore, he stated plainly. As for calling off the engagement, handle the details however you want. Let's just end this cleanly on good terms. Ethan registered the cold, disdainful, mocking sound that passed for a laugh. She looked down her nose at him, her expression patronizing, as if addressing an unreasonable child throwing a fit. Decades of experience told Ethan she was utterly livid. Her lifelong aristocratic upbringing ensured that no matter how furious she became, Amelia wouldn't resort to shouting, especially not in public. Ethan, you want to call this off? Have you considered your parents? The Johnson family businesses? Marriage isn't a game. For people like us, from families like ours, feelings are a cheap commodity. Fine, I don't love you, but don't you forget it was the Johnson family who came begging Harper Enterprises for this alliance. And don't you forget who was crawling at my feet like a pathetic simp, the one I couldn't get rid of no matter how hard I tried. Now, the contracts are signed, the dress is fitted, the money's changed hands, the venue's booked, the invitations are sent, and you just decide to walk away? Do you think Harper Enterprises is some pushover? Believe me, I can make one call to my father, Benjamin Harper, and have him pull every single investment from your family. You won't be able to survive in Rosewood City. Ethan had intended to handle this calmly, civilly, but clearly, Amelia wasn't interested in preserving appearances. Then again, he knew better than anyone that she'd never considered him her boyfriend, much less her fiancé. To her, he was just convenient, a tool readily available to amuse her, cater to her whims, someone always on call. Now, that thin veneer of civility was utterly shattered. If this were the 20-year-old Ethan, her words might have actually wounded him, broken through his composure. I've already severed ties with the Johnson family, Ethan stated coolly. Whoever you paid, take it up with them. Amelia, I've laid it all out. Let's try to retain some dignity here. If you're that set on alliance with the Johnsons, I have an idea. Get them to adopt William. Then you two could be together, perfectly legitimately. You get your feelings and your precious business interests. Don't bother trying to threaten me. I'm on my own now. I have nothing left to lose, nothing holding me back. Harper Enterprises is huge, powerful. I get it. If you really want to crush me, I probably can't stop you head on. But if I can't survive in Rosewood City, I'll move to another city. If I can't make it anywhere else in this country, I'll leave the country. It's a big world out there. I highly doubt Harper Enterprises' reach is truly that absolute, that you can blot out the sky with one hand. The smile vanished completely from Ethan's face. He carried the experience of a man in his 50s. Was he supposed to be intimidated by a girl barely in her 20s? The Ethan from his past life had managed all of Johnson family's assets and eventually handled Harper Enterprises' affairs too. Worth $1. $5 billion. Power changes a man. Even the most meek would gain steel. Long accustomed to wielding authority, that Ethan possessed an aura of command, an intimidating presence even when calm. He spoke, his gaze cold as he stared at Amelia's suddenly stiff and pale face. You call me a simp. Think carefully about what that implies about the one being simped for. Don't drag yourself down with the insult. For the past 3 years, I, Ethan, have done right by you. Think about how I've genuinely tried, how much effort I've put in for your sake, and don't push me into a dead end. If you back me into a corner, if you truly push me over the edge, then it's mutually assured destruction. If I'm going down, trust me, everyone is coming down with me. The fact I'm calling this off proves I have absolutely no lingering designs on you. If I did, may I die without a grave. So just accept it, make a clean break. You're Lady Amelia Harper. You have hordes of admirers. You certainly don't need me among them. Stop acting like I owe you something, like I'm obligated to worship the ground you walk on forever. With that said, Ethan picked up his coffee, took a sip, then stood up, paid the bill, and left. Amelia was on the verge of breaking down. She trembled all over. Her vision suddenly went black, and the very air seemed to turn sharp. Each breath sent a stabbing pain through her chest. Rage surged through her, threatening to snap her nerves. Her body went weak, nearly causing her to collapse from her chair. She thought she knew Ethan well, but she'd never imagined this cold, ruthless side of him. It was like he was a different person, the tenderness he once held for her completely gone from his eyes. How could this be happening? Was Ethan deliberately playing hard to get? Was this some kind of push-and-pull tactic just to get her attention? She refused to believe Ethan truly wanted to cut ties with her. Amelia wanted to stand up, to chase after him, but her legs chose that exact moment to turn to jelly. She could only watch as Ethan walked further away. Amelia stubbornly lifted her chin. Ethan, do you really think I can't live without you? Without me, you're nothing. You'll regret this. One day, you'll face reality. Who was the one failing to face reality? Did she really take him for such a simp? After everything that had been said, how could there possibly be any turning back? Ethan didn't pause for her, didn't even glance back. He just left. People in the coffee shop cast curious glances their way. Amelia lowered her head, her gaze falling on the ring on her right middle finger. They'd been sitting there for maybe 10 minutes, her hand resting on the table the entire time. How could Ethan not have noticed such an obvious ring? Or perhaps he had noticed and simply ignored it. Right now, Amelia felt like a complete clown. She fought to control herself, not wanting to break down or make a scene in public. Her eyes burned, her nose tingled. She wasn't sad about Ethan leaving. She felt humiliated. She had swallowed her pride, taken the initiative to salvage their relationship. Why did he have to be so difficult, saying such things just to humiliate her? Amelia forcefully pulled the ring off, intending to throw it away, but she froze as she faced the trash can. She bit her lip, staring at the ring in her hand. It felt like needles were hidden in her blood, pricking her from the inside out. Not painful, exactly, but deeply unsettling. Everyone around them said Ethan was her simp, that he couldn't function without her. Gradually, she started seeing him that way too, internalizing her friends' opinions. Only after moving in with Ethan did she truly start to accept him as her fiancé, treating him like her possession. That's why she never imagined Ethan would actually leave her. It was like her childhood bunny plushies. When she got tired of them, she was the one who discarded them. The bunny couldn't possibly reject her. Amelia couldn't quite decipher her own feelings at that moment. She remained skeptical, refusing to believe Ethan could truly sever ties with the Johnson family. She could almost understand him not liking her anymore, but surely he wouldn't abandon his parents. This time, she'd figured it out. She would ignore Ethan for a few days. Even if his parents forced him to kneel on the ground, she wouldn't spare him a glance, let alone plead his case. However arrogant he was now, that's how ridiculous he would look later. Amelia composed herself, quickly reverting to the aloof Lady Harper. Ethan, refreshed after his coffee, felt invigorated. He had a busy day. Besides meeting Amelia, he had an appointment with his lawyer at noon. The lawyer was a friend from his university days named Samuel Sullivan. He was on pretty good terms with Samuel Sullivan, who had also been at the philanthropic gala the previous night. Ethan had booked a private room at a Cajun cuisine restaurant, and they'd arranged to meet there. They planned to discuss matters over lunch. Having heard Ethan publicly announce the broken engagement yesterday, Samuel was still skeptical. So, as soon as they sat down, Samuel Sullivan asked, "Are you really breaking off the engagement with Amelia? This isn't just you acting out of anger, is it? I've already made things clear with Amelia regarding the broken engagement." Action spoke louder than any attitude. Samuel Sullivan sighed wistfully. "Always thought you really liked Amelia. Getting engaged and then breaking it off so soon. The turnaround is so fast. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it." Ethan met Amelia back in university. He'd always been a rule follower, sticking to his duties, but his first time climbing over the wall to skip class, staying out late from the dorms. It was all because of Amelia. After pursuing her for 3 years and finally getting engaged, how could he just call it off like that? Personal feelings aside, how would they untangle the interests intertwined between their two families? Ethan had genuinely liked Amelia. If it had just been for the alliance, he wouldn't have gone to such lengths. But even the deepest affection can eventually run dry. After all, a cup of hot water doesn't turn cold instantly. There wasn't a trace of disappointment on Ethan's face. Perhaps the end of disappointment was simply acceptance. She liked someone else. If marriage is a tomb, then a forced marriage is a mass grave. Samuel Sullivan asked, "So, the stuff on Twitter about her and that celebrity, is it true?" Ethan didn't elaborate, just gave a simple, You couldn't believe everything on Twitter, but Ethan confirming it himself changed things entirely. No wonder he was angry enough to call off the engagement yesterday. Getting engaged, and then running off to be with another man. Marrying a young lady like that. Was he looking to add some drama to his life? Samuel Sullivan opened his mouth, wanting to offer some words of comfort, but couldn't quite find any. Breaking it off might be for the best. A woman like that is trouble you don't need. But will your parents agree? That's the next thing I need to entrust to you. I plan to sever ties with the Johnson family. Help me draft an agreement. Last night, Ethan had consulted other lawyers on Twitter. Legally, severing ties with biological parents isn't permissible, but he could cut off contact. Worst case, he'd have to pay some minimal alimony once they turned 60, just a few $100, which they probably wouldn't even care about. The tricky part was getting money. Unlike a divorce where assets could be divided, there were no marital assets to split between parent and child. You only got what they were willing to give. Otherwise, they'd plan their inheritance accordingly. If things went sour, they could just kick you out of the house, leaving you without a cent. A wealthy family like the Johnsons, even if they were past their prime, still had liquid assets in the hundreds of millions. Such a large enterprise. Didn't want to inherit it to get a piece of the pie? I don't want the assets. Not a single penny. Since he was cutting ties, he wouldn't covet the Johnson family trust. In his past life, he had inherited all this wealth. He worked tirelessly day in and day out. He had money, but his health was gone. He died before he could even enjoy it. Therefore, Ethan truly didn't care about the so-called inheritance rights. All that wealth, and you're just giving it up? Ethan stated decisively, "I don't want it." So willful. Samuel Sullivan was speechless, privately thinking Ethan was an idiot. If it were him, he'd swallow his pride and endure it. After all, Amelia hadn't actually cheated. Even if there was no love now, feelings could develop after marriage. Then he'd have both the money and the wife. Just thinking about it was delightful. But this was Ethan's decision. Samuel couldn't really persuade him otherwise. Everyone thought differently. Samuel Sullivan took out his laptop and quickly drafted the agreement. "Take a look, is this okay? Anything to add?" "This is fine." Ethan had watched him draft it. There were no issues. "Once it's printed, you can take it back for your parents to sign. You can still back out now, but once they sign, changing your mind will be difficult. Primarily because you'd lose face." Samuel Sullivan worried Ethan might be saying one thing, but meaning another, but Ethan was truly determined to cut ties with these people. The sooner, the better. He couldn't wait. Once free from the Johnson family, he could live this life for himself, maybe even live long enough to collect retirement. "I won't regret it." He'd offered his advice, laid out the pros and cons clearly. Whether Ethan listened was up to him. Samuel was just earning his retainer fee anyway. After lunch, Ethan followed Samuel Sullivan to his office and signed the retainer agreement. Ethan didn't want to waste a moment. Before the agreement was even printed, he took out his phone, unblocked Richard Johnson, and called him. Richard Johnson answered, assuming Ethan had come to his senses and was calling to apologize. But as soon as the call connected, he heard Ethan ask, "Are you home? I need to see you about something." "One night passed, and you've realized your mistake?" Richard Johnson scoffed, then continued speaking as if to himself. "Your mother and I have discussed it. Prepare some gifts. Come with us to Harper Enterprises. Don't go inside. Just kneel at the entrance and admit your fault. A proper act of contrition." Say you were impulsive yesterday, not thinking clearly when you mentioned breaking the engagement. First, gain your Uncle Harper's forgiveness, then properly coax Amelia, recognize your place, and show your sincerity and affection. Ethan, impatient, cut him off directly. Mr. Johnson, you seem to have misunderstood something. I'm contacting you today to sever ties with you both, not to continue acting like your dog. The phone went silent for several seconds, as if the connection had suddenly frozen. Only after a moment did Richard's voice return. What did you say? Didn't you say yesterday that if I wanted to break the engagement, I'd have to sever ties with you first? I've already had my lawyer draw up the agreement. I'm coming over now. All you need to do is sign. Ethan, do you have any idea what you're saying? I'm speaking plain English. Of course, you know what I'm saying. Or are you pretending you don't understand? Richard Johnson's voice came through the phone, tight with anger. Fine, Ethan. You've really grown a backbone, haven't you? Daring to speak to me like this. Whether his backbone was hard or not, Ethan didn't know, but his life certainly had been. After all, he was someone who died once before. I spoke to you the same way yesterday. If you don't like hearing it, you won't have to once we cut ties. Richard Johnson flew into a rage, utterly exasperated, unleashing a torrent of abuse over the phone. Just from the sound, Ethan could imagine how much spit was flying. Richard Johnson was 50 this year, more than halfway through his life. In Ethan's previous life, Richard had lived to 70. That wasn't particularly long for an ordinary person, but at least it was better than him. After Ethan took over all the Johnson family businesses, Richard had stepped back to become chairman. He didn't manage the day-to-day affairs, but he still held significant power. After turning 60, he traveled extensively, spending his free time fishing and gardening, living quite comfortably. He even had time to bring his mistress back home to live with him. Margaret Johnson had died from the stress and anger caused by the mistress, still relatively young at the time. Come to think of it, Richard Johnson's affair had started just a few years ago. Ethan used to believe that while the Johnson family was selfish, Richard and Margaret at least loved each other. Only later did he realize he'd thought too much. Selfish people only ever love themselves. How could they possibly love anyone else? I'm bringing my lawyer to the Johnson residence at 2 this afternoon. With that, Ethan decisively ended the call. Samuel Sullivan, standing nearby, had heard everything from start to finish. All his confusion was cleared up. He finally understood why Ethan was so desperate to leave the Johnson family. Listen to the things Richard Johnson said. Not even the most basic respect for his own child, treating him like a dog to be disciplined. Fortunately, Ethan seemed unaffected, his retorts sharp and satisfying. Ethan had shattered Samuel's preconceived notions repeatedly these past 2 days. He almost didn't recognize him anymore. Ethan hung up and turned around to see Samuel staring blankly at him. He thought for a moment and explained, I needed to provoke him a little. I'm worried he won't agree otherwise. Brother, you've already succeeded, Samuel thought. You've pushed him this far. Aren't you afraid he'll target you in the future? Ethan calmly poured himself a glass of hot water. He'll target me even if I don't provoke him. True enough, just demanding Ethan repay $300 million in upbringing expenses was outrageous enough. You could sell Ethan and still not make that kind of money. If Richard Johnson insisted on that sum, it would inevitably lead to a lawsuit. Samuel organized the documents. At 1 p.m., the two drove straight to the Johnson family home. Both Richard and Margaret Johnson were present. The moment Margaret saw Ethan, she started shrieking hysterically. If I had known you'd become so disobedient, I should have drowned you at birth. A couple years younger, you caused your own sister's death, and now you're trying to harm the family. I nearly died giving birth to you, raised you with such hardship, and this is how you repay your parents. You murderer, you killed your own sister. You will spend your entire life atoning for her in the Johnson family. Her sharp, grating voice was like nails on a chalkboard, making one's skin crawl. Samuel, encountering such a scene for the first time, instinctively took a step back. He looked worriedly at Ethan, only to find his expression calm. Whenever Ethan was disobedient or tried to resist, Margaret would descend into madness, cursing him with the most vicious words, guilt-tripping him. Ethan dreaded returning to this house, dreaded facing this mother. Yet, he had to face her. In his past life, Ethan had brainwashed himself into believing the family needed him. Margaret's periodic fits, beating him, spitting on him, cursing him, allowed her to vent her frustrations. Afterward, she would return to normal, preventing her from harming herself. He's too disobedient. I want to kill him. All right, I'll help you. I want to kneel. He's just a murderer. Yes, you're right. He's a murderer. He doesn't deserve to be our son. We can't love him. He should atone for our Catherine. I stopped loving him long ago. He's not listening to us now. Is he trying to destroy our family? He already destroyed it once. Richard comforted her with extreme gentleness. He won't. I'm here. I'll protect our family. The words of a madwoman lacked logic, but they came straight from her heart. The thought of Ethan growing up in such an environment sent a chill down Samuel Sullivan's spine. He had previously disapproved of Ethan leaving home, but now he wished he could sprout wings and fly him out. What kind of home was this? It was practically the Springfield Mental Health Center, a slaughterhouse. How much had Ethan endured to remain so unflinching now? He had heard words like these far too often. In this family, he was simply a criminal. He didn't deserve to live like a human. He could only be treated like a dog, his sole purpose to bare his chest when they were unhappy, allowing them to stab him through the heart with a knife, again and again. Margaret grabbed the ashtray from the coffee table, ready to smash it over Ethan's head. If that thing hit, it would split his skull open. Ethan didn't dodge or block, just stared straight at her. Margaret Johnson, are you sure you want to have a meltdown in front of the lawyer? If you dare lay a hand on me today, I will call the police and have my lawyer file charges immediately. Richard Johnson quickly grabbed Margaret, holding her back. Your mother is sick because of you. Are you trying to provoke her until she completely loses her mind? I told you, if she's sick, she should go to the Mayo Clinic, not use her illness as an excuse to do whatever she wants. Margaret glared daggers at Ethan. Are you calling me crazy? Munchausen syndrome. You should be familiar with it. Though seemingly addressed to Margaret, Ethan's gaze was fixed on Richard Johnson. Richard visibly flinched, a flicker of panic entering his eyes as he looked at Ethan. Mr. Johnson, I'd like to discuss the next steps with you privately. If Richard refused, Ethan wouldn't mind exposing this ugly affair in public. Richard Johnson had lost his earlier calm confidence. He soothed his wife, whispering comforting words in her ear. To an outsider, the scene might even look touching, a husband remaining devoted despite his wife's illness. Sometimes, if you pretend to be ill long enough, you really become ill. Richard took Margaret to the bedroom, instructing the housemaid to watch her, then called Ethan into the study. Ethan glanced at the somewhat apprehensive Samuel Sullivan, signaling with his eyes that everything would be fine. On the way over, Ethan had assured him it would all go smoothly. Samuel wasn't sure if Ethan was genuinely confident or overly optimistic, but he chose to trust him. Inside the study, Ethan calmly and composedly took out the agreement. I don't want anything from the Johnson Family Trust. If there are no issues, please sign. Richard remained unfazed. He sat back in his executive chair, lit a cigarette, and opened a drawer, pulling out a ledger. I told you, if you want to cut ties with us, you have to pay back the money first. He didn't believe Ethan could possibly produce $300 million. That $300 million included not only the supposed upbringing expenses, but also recent company losses pinned on Ethan. It was utterly shameless. Seeing the detailed breakdown, Ethan laughed out of exasperation. Mr. Johnson, I'm not negotiating with you. I'm informing you. From the age of 6, I lived with Grandma Miller. She raised me until I was 18. I don't know where you get the nerve to demand $300 million back. Only you know how these figures were concocted. Don't give me that nonsense. If you really piss me off, I won't hesitate to leak the story about Margaret Johnson killing her younger daughter and framing her older son to TMZ. Richard Johnson was getting restless. Do you have any proof? How dare you say that? It had been 18 years. Ethan was only 5 back then. His memories must be hazy. What proof could he possibly have? And did you have proof when you called me a murderer? Your mother saw it. The housemaid saw it too. Then please tell me, how does a 5-year-old child, not even a meter tall, throw another child a couple years younger over a 94-foot high railing? Ethan sneered. Post it on Twitter. I'm sure plenty of netizens will help me figure that one out. Richard Johnson slammed the table and shot to his feet, his eyes wide with fury, trying to intimidate Ethan with sheer presence. In parent-child relationships, parents held the absolute position of power. Absolute power meant absolute tyranny. Even when they knew they were wrong, they wouldn't admit it. Richard Johnson habitually pressured, belittled, and used an authoritarian approach on Ethan. In his eyes, his son wasn't a son, but more like a useful tool. The 55-year-old Ethan had long seen through the facade to the underlying reality. Truth be told, his emotional maturity now surpassed Richard Johnson's. Ethan continued. A mother, seeing her youngest daughter grievously injured, doesn't rush to call emergency services. Instead, she grabs her son, screaming and cursing, insisting on waiting for her husband to return before taking the daughter to the Mayo Clinic. The second floor is 5 meters above the ground, with grass below. A fall from that height isn't necessarily instantly fatal. It's highly likely she bled out because precious rescue time was wasted. As the only guardian present, the mother doesn't reflect on her own negligence, but blames a 5-year-old child, repeatedly calling him a murderer, a demon. Is that normal? As for you, the father, you specifically emphasize that I killed my own sister. You made me face the police questioning alone, forced me to confess. To better control me, you've emotionally blackmailed me for years. Richard Johnson could no longer maintain his lofty authority. He began to tremble, breaking out in a cold sweat, panic flashing in his eyes. He met Ethan's gaze. What kind of eyes were those? Like black abysses staring back, threatening to pull him in. Richard Johnson staggered back a step, fumbling for the table to steady himself. That's just your speculation. Is it? Ethan took out his phone, pulled up a medical report, and pushed it under Richard Johnson's nose. Richard Johnson focused his eyes. It was a report on Margaret Johnson from the Springfield Mental Health Center. Munchausen syndrome is an extreme psychological disorder, common among mothers of young children. To gain attention and sympathy, they deliberately harm or abuse their children, sometimes even killing them. She loved you too much. After giving birth to our daughter, she felt the child was stealing your attention away from her. To assert her own importance, or perhaps to regain all of your love, she chose to kill our daughter. She's unfit to be a mother, unfit even to be called human. To satisfy her selfish desires, she not only killed her daughter, but also destroyed her son. Ethan recounted this as if telling someone else's story. He had already endured immense sorrow. Repeating it now still made his heart ache slightly. He leaned forward, bracing his hands on the table, closer to Richard Johnson. To cover up the truth, you had this place renovated. The second-floor balcony was enclosed with glass. But I can still find photos from back then. I'm not a demon. I am not the killer of my sister. 2 children under 5 must be supervised by an adult. If something happens, the person responsible for their care is the primary responsible party. That's written into law. The second-floor railing is high. Only an adult could lift a 3-year-old child and throw her over. Only Mom was there at the time. Therefore, she is the murderer. You covered up the truth to protect her, ruining me, forcing me to bear the accusation of murder. All these years, whenever I tried to prove my innocence, she would start having episodes. His bottomless dark eyes stared straight at Richard Johnson. Richard Johnson flinched, wanting to retort, but it felt as if a rope were tightening around his neck. His face grew pale. Ethan straightened up, a gentle smile touching his lips like sunlight on a winter day. If I were to release this entire story, what do you think the public would say about the Johnson family? Do you think the police might reopen the investigation for me? Would you be able to keep your precious reputation then? You wouldn't dare. Richard Johnson roared, but his voice carried no weight, having zero intimidating effect. His panic became increasingly obvious, his earlier composure gone. Watch me. Ethan chuckled, a light gradually entering his dark eyes. Don't think about betting against me, because you can't afford to lose. Sign the papers. Do it now, while I can still control myself. If this drags on, I can't guarantee I won't do something crazy. Richard Johnson was trembling, whether from anger or fear was unclear. He forced himself to appear calm. The Johnson family has the Johnson Family Trust, worth over $1 billion. You're the only child. These assets will be yours eventually. Are you really giving them up? Anything from you feels tainted to me. If I could, I'd wish I'd never been born into the Johnson family, never been your child. Fine, 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 Richard Johnson repeated, his hands shaking with rage. He tremblingly picked up a pen and forcefully signed his name. Ethan, don't you regret this? Seeing the signature finally on the page, Ethan gathered the agreement. As he straightened the papers, he said, Regret what? Not living like a decent human being, so I could keep being your pawn? Instead of worrying about me, you should worry about yourself. Accomplice to murder, the ones truly deserving punishment were them. With the severance agreement in hand, Ethan was finally walking out of this prison. If Grandma Miller hadn't raised me, I would have died long ago. You don't deserve to be a father, and you don't deserve to be a son. You failed her, all for your so-called dignity, Ethan stated, word by word. At the mention of his grandmother, a rare flicker of guilt and remorse crossed Richard Johnson's eyes. Ethan turned and left without hesitation. Samuel Sullivan watched him emerge unscathed and let out a breath of relief, asking quietly, Did he sign? He didn't give you trouble, did he? He signed. Ethan handed the agreement over. Samuel Sullivan checked it carefully, confirmed everything was in order, and put it away securely. From this day forward, walking out this door Leaving this house, Ethan officially severed ties with Richard and Margaret Johnson, also renouncing his inheritance rights to the Johnson family fortune. Margaret Johnson seemed to sense Ethan was leaving. She burst out of her bedroom, ignoring the maids trying to stop her, and shrieked, "Ethan, you can't leave. You're my son. I gave birth to you. You have to take responsibility for me. Atone for your sister's death. Don't you dare walk out of here." Because if he walked out, the burden of guilt would fall on her, and she couldn't bear it. Ethan remained unmoved, letting Margaret Johnson spew her venomous words. Having not heard them for years, he now registered them as mere meaningless noise. He was no longer the easily brainwashed Ethan of the past. He had awakened, refusing to be a tool any longer. In her frenzy, Margaret Johnson lost all her usual dignity and grace. No one pitied her because she was the abuser. Everyone in the villa wore numb expressions, as if they were long desensitized to such scenes. Margaret Johnson couldn't allow her son to escape her control. She resorted to her old tactic, crying out her dead daughter's name. "Catherine, Mom knows you're still here. Your brother killed you, and now he wants to just walk away, abandon Mom and Dad. He's an animal." Everyone in the house knew that whenever Margaret Johnson called for Catherine, Ethan was supposed to yield, to kneel and admit fault. Burdened by guilt, Ethan used to obey Margaret Johnson. But today, no matter how much Margaret cried, raged, or screamed, he watched her with indifference. Seeing Margaret acting erratically, Ethan curled his thin lips into a smile and pointed behind her. "Stop calling for sister. She's right there on your shoulder, smiling at you." The furious and hysterical Margaret Johnson suddenly fell silent. Her face visibly turned deathly pale, terror evident in her eyes. So, she could feel fear too. Having exhausted all her tricks, Margaret Johnson realized Ethan was no longer under her control as before. She began to scream. This time, she had truly snapped. Those who pretend to be mad often end up truly mad. That was Margaret Johnson. Ear-piercing, broken shrieks echoed through the living room as she collapsed to the floor, tearing at her hair. Samuel Sullivan pulled Ethan back, stopping only when they reached a safe distance. Samuel Sullivan had initially worried Ethan might be upset, but one look told him otherwise. Ethan was squinting, watching the farce unfold with mocking amusement. Margaret Johnson's frenzy seemed almost entertaining to him. Richard Johnson was also drawn out of his study. Watching his hysterical wife and cold son, he couldn't help but wonder if he'd made mistakes over the years. Ethan had seen enough. He called out to Samuel Sullivan, "Let's go." Margaret Johnson stopped her screaming, her voice laced with anxiety. "You can't leave. If you go, what happens with Harper Enterprises? Who's going to marry Amelia? Honey, tie him up. Lock him in the basement. Don't let him leave." When Richard Johnson didn't move, Margaret lunged at him, pounding on his chest. "Didn't you hear me? I told you to have him tied up. If he leaves, what about the deal we arranged?" These weren't the words of a truly mad woman. "Ethan, come back here. If you dare walk out that door, I'll kill myself, you'll see." Ethan scoffed. "Then go right ahead and die. Jump off a building, take sleeping pills, slit your wrists, drown yourself, hang yourself, die however you want. Perfect timing. Then you can finally apologize to your daughter." Richard Johnson cut him off, his voice cracking. "Ethan, that's enough." "Enough? Her screaming about dying is just her way of threatening me, isn't it? She's pulled this same routine countless times over the years. She might not be tired of it, but I'm sick to death of watching." Richard Johnson trembled visibly. Was he afraid the stress would push Margaret over the edge? No, he was afraid of the Johnson family scandals becoming even more public. A shaky Margaret Johnson leaned against Richard Johnson, as if finding her backbone. "Honey, confiscate all his platinum cards. Don't give him a penny. If he dares leave this house, let him starve out there." This time, Ethan said nothing, merely letting out a short, sharp laugh. The derision in his eyes was more cutting than any words could be. He turned and left without a backward glance, abandoning Margaret Johnson to her furious, impotent screams. Eventually, even Richard Johnson lost his patience and started shouting curses, the cacophony threatening to blow the roof off. Ethan stepped out the front door and looked up. The sky was a vast expanse of blue, dotted with white clouds, bright and clear. It felt like a portent of a brighter future. Samuel Sullivan sighed and clapped Ethan on the shoulder. "Try not to let it get to you." What part of him looked upset? Ethan gave a slight chuckle. "I don't waste my emotions on things or people that are irrelevant." Fair point. Samuel Sullivan's expression was complex. Dealing with parents like that, growing up in this kind of environment, it couldn't have been easy. "I finally get why you were so desperate to get away from this family." Ethan didn't want to elaborate on the past. What was done was done. It was time to look forward. Samuel Sullivan had so many questions he wanted to ask, like what had really happened with his sister's death. He'd known Ethan for years and never even knew he had a sister. But, afraid of reopening old wounds, Samuel Sullivan kept his mouth shut. So, you've broken off the engagement with Amelia, and now you've cut ties with the Johnson family. Do you think they'll still do business together? That's their problem. It's got nothing to do with me. In his previous life, the Johnson family had indeed weathered some storms thanks to Harper Enterprises' help, but without Ethan drumming up business, negotiating deals, and earning the trust of their partners, the Johnson family wouldn't have made it in the long run. Relying on yourself is better than relying on others. Constant dependence on outside help is a path to failure. Samuel Sullivan's thoughts, however, ran along different lines. He worried about practicalities. How would Ethan support himself now? Would the Johnson and Harper families retaliate? Would they make it impossible for him to stay in Rosewood City? Did Ethan even have any money left? And what would happen to the considerable assets in the Johnson family trust? Would they try to produce another heir? Or adopt? For a child adopted into a family like this, would it be a blessing or a curse? Ethan, we're practically brothers. You're my best friend. If you run into any trouble, you tell me, okay? All right then, find me a job. Ethan was completely serious. Samuel Sullivan, assuming Ethan was genuinely broke, started mentally scanning his contacts for potential work for Ethan. Ethan had the ability, the looks. Regular jobs wouldn't be right for the former young master, but high-profile positions would make him an easy target for the Johnsons or Harpers. Samuel Sullivan scratched his head. You know, I actually do have a high-paying gig in mind. $5 million just for signing, plus a cut of the profits later. If it blows up, you could be looking at $100 million. Easy. For most people, $100 million is more than they'd see in a lifetime. That kind of money would definitely tide Ethan over during this transitional period. Ethan's interest was piqued. What kind of job? Well, a little while ago, I helped a director friend draft some contracts. He's currently prepping a reality show, and he's short on cast members. Samuel Sullivan explained. The more Ethan heard, the more familiar it sounded, until he heard the name of the show and it clicked. Love on the Journey was a slow-living style reality dating show. It featured 3 pairs of guests, a mix of celebrities and regular people, and had become a massive hit, going viral almost overnight. Too much time had passed for Ethan to recall all the details, but he remembered the constant buzz and arguments about it on Twitter. Since it was streamed live on Twitch, unexpected things happened constantly, and every little gesture or comment was endlessly scrutinized and blown out of proportion. In his previous life, the cast members had all been top performers in their respective fields, each bringing their own built-in fan base and controversies. Compared to them, Ethan felt almost ordinary. Give me the director's contact information. I'll talk to him. Samuel Sullivan had been fully prepared for Ethan to turn him down. Hearing him agree so readily, he blinked, then quickly said, Okay, given your current situation, the director will definitely want you. How so? You're trending like crazy on Twitter right now. The whole internet is talking about you. Okay, so it's not exactly positive buzz, but you've got built-in traffic. If you go on the show, get in front of the public, maybe you can even clean up your image. Ethan had never worked in entertainment, but that didn't mean he was naive about it. If he wanted to make quick money, this was a prime opportunity. When the director heard Samuel Sullivan wanted to introduce Ethan for the show, he immediately said he was eager to talk. Ethan didn't waste time either. He got the director's details from Samuel and contacted him, arranging a meeting place and time for that same day. He'd expected a thorough discussion before any decisions were made, but the director had the contract ready to go. Ethan, I've heard about what happened. I'd be absolutely delighted to have you on my show. Here's the contract. Take a look. If there are no problems, feel free to sign. The director gave Ethan a quick, appraising look, his eyes lighting up like a starving man spotting a feast. Director, shouldn't you think about this more? My reputation isn't exactly stellar right now. Plus, I just severed ties with the Johnson family, and I'm currently unemployed. Samuel Sullivan, your lawyer, already filled me in on all that. Look, reputation is just hearsay. Only people who actually get to know you can judge what kind of person you are. This show is a great opportunity for people to do just that. Even in their brief meeting, the director found himself liking the polite young man before him. Besides, putting everything else aside, Ethan was undeniably good-looking. With his years of experience, the director had a gut feeling this show was going to be huge. He'd been around Hollywood long enough not to buy everything he read on Twitter. Ethan reviewed the contract carefully. Seeing no issues, he picked up the pen. Just as he was about to sign, he asked, Director, is there a script for this? No script. Just be yourself. After all, with a live Twitch stream, even the most detailed script would eventually fall apart. The director watched Ethan sign, sipping his tea. As if afraid Ethan might change his mind, he quickly retrieved the contract the moment the signature was complete. Do you have a Twitter account? Ethan nodded. Great. Let's follow each other. The director pulled out his phone. Get your Twitter verified with your real name. Is it urgent? Definitely urgent. We start filming the day after tomorrow. Make sure you pack your things and get here early. Don't be late. The director reminded him emphatically. Ethan took out his phone, followed the director back, and began the verification process for his account. It was clear the director was incredibly busy. He was summoned away by a phone call almost immediately after the contract was signed. Before leaving, he patted Ethan's shoulder. Don't be nervous. Just go with the flow. Use the next couple of days to get yourself in the right headspace. Ethan nodded. Meanwhile, the moment the two followed each other on Twitter, internet sleuths were on the case. From the information swirling online, Ethan gathered that the show also featured an observation lounge component. In addition to the main cast being streamed live, there would be commentators in a separate studio watching the feed, generating discussion points, and interacting with online viewers. The production team would then edit the most controversial and buzzworthy moments from both feeds into the main broadcast episodes. Based on celebrity schedules leaked by netizens, William was set to appear as one of the commentators. Ethan finally understood the gleam in the director's eyes when he'd seen him. You had to hand it to modern netizens. They had some serious detective skills. The director had barely followed Ethan before someone noticed. Even before Ethan's verification went through, users had analyzed his tweets and correctly identified him. Once the verification checkmark appeared, his DMs and comments section absolutely exploded. He immediately shot up the Twitter trends, discussion volume skyrocketing. Hashtag Ethan on Love Show. Hashtag William Ethan Triangle. Hashtag William observing Ethan date. Hashtag Love Rivals Reunite. Hashtag Ethan joining dating show after split. Hashtag Love on the Journey cast. Hashtag Ethan Love on the Journey. Annoyed by the constant barrage of Twitter notifications, Ethan simply turned on notification filtering. Just as he finished, a text message alert popped up. It was from Amelia. You're going on a dating show? You are not allowed. Do you hear me? Ethan saw it, but ignored it. Back at his place, he grabbed a change of clothes and headed for the shower. When he emerged, there were several more messages waiting. Amelia seemed to have an addiction to controlling people. They were finished. What right did she have to dictate his actions? She never seemed this controlling when William, as an actor, filmed intimate scenes with co-stars. Ethan, reply to my messages. Can you stop causing trouble? Don't joke about something like this. We just broke off the engagement, and you immediately go on a show like this? What does that make me look like? How many more people do you want laughing at my expense? It suddenly dawned on Ethan. She wasn't upset for him. She was upset because his participation reflected badly on her, causing her embarrassment. So now she felt humiliated? Funny how she didn't seem too concerned about humiliation when she was ditching their wedding yesterday. Guess the slap only stings when it lands on your own cheek. The engagement was off. The family ties were cut. There was no need for any further contact. With that thought, Ethan decisively blocked and deleted Amelia's contact information. You are absolutely forbidden from going on that kind of reality show. You're not an entertainer. You'll only make a fool of yourself. Message sent, but delivery failed. The recipient has enabled friend verification. You're not currently friends. Ethan actually blocked and deleted her. In disbelief, Amelia called Ethan, only to get an automated voice message saying the user was currently on a call. He'd blocked her number 2. All the confidence she had mustered instantly crumbled. Just then, messages started pouring in. Is it true you broke off the engagement with Ethan? Is he really going on that dating show like everyone online says? Amelia was so livid her scalp tingled. She snatched an ornament from the bedside table and hurled it to the floor. Only after the crash did she realize it was the framed photo of herself and William. She had treasured that photo ever since William went abroad, keeping it right by her bed. Now, after 5 years, she'd smashed it in a fit of anger over Ethan. The protective glass shattered, yet Amelia's rage remained, undirected. The loud noise alerted people outside. A housemaid knocked tentatively. Ms. Harper, are you all right? I'm fine. Leave me alone. Amelia snapped, forcing down her anger. Her face was grim as she stared at the shards scattered across the floor. A short while later, footsteps approached again. This time, it was Benjamin Harper calling her name. Amelia, Aunt Jean said she heard a loud crash in your room. Open the door, let me see. I told you, I'm really fine, Amelia said impatiently. Open the door. Benjamin Harper's tone grew heavy, leaving no room for refusal. Reluctantly, Amelia opened the door for her father. Benjamin Harper immediately saw the broken glass on the floor. He frowned and instructed the housemaid to clean up the mess. "When did you get back? Have you eaten?" "This afternoon. I ate something." She'd returned right after seeing Ethan. Having suffered from insomnia the night before, she'd gone straight to her bedroom at Harper Enterprises to sleep after getting back. She woke up around 8, managed a bowl of oatmeal, but had no real appetite and felt utterly drained. She'd been planning to go back to sleep when a friend called, asking about the broken engagement with Ethan and if she'd handled things. Too ashamed, she hadn't told the truth. And now her father was here asking, "Did you see Ethan?" Her father wasn't easily fooled. Amelia lowered her head. "Yes." "And his attitude?" "Indifferent." "Did you reconcile?" Benjamin Harper assumed it would be simple. Amelia just needed to placate Ethan a bit, give him an out, and things would smooth over. Given the ties between their families, Ethan had no logical reason to break the engagement. Amelia remained silent. Seeing this, Benjamin Harper frowned and asked tentatively, "Still not reconciled? What did you say when you met?" "I said everything I needed to. I admitted I was wrong, and I offered to compensate him. But he's being petty and vindictive, deliberately making things difficult and humiliating me. He wants to break off the engagement, cut all ties. He's even blocked me." She couldn't bring herself to mention the dating show. It was too mortifying. Benjamin Harper's face darkened upon hearing this. Does he think this marriage is his decision alone? He could just call it off whenever he feels like it? Don't you worry about him anymore. Give him a silent treatment for a few days. He'll come around once he's had time to think. His tone was laced with disdain. Will he really? Amelia doubted Ethan would soften this time. "Dad, what did the Johnson family say?" "They called me around noon to apologize. Said they'd bring Ethan over to apologize in person. For the sake of both families' reputations, I was initially planning to let this go. After all, you were the one in the wrong first, so it's normal for him to be angry. But now, if he refuses the olive branch, I won't offer it again. Even if the Johnsons come groveling, don't you give in easily. If Ethan dares to give me attitude before you're even married, imagine what it'll be like later. Will I have to walk on eggshells around him if you get pregnant?" Benjamin Harper's words offered little comfort. Amelia asked, "Dad, what if Ethan disowns his parents just to break off the engagement with me?" Benjamin Harper scoffed. "How could that possibly happen?" "How could it not? Ethan would bend over backward when he cared, but what if he didn't care anymore? After all, his parents hadn't exactly treated him well." Benjamin Harper sensed Amelia's unease. "If you're worried, I'll call the Johnsons right now." Amelia desperately wanted to know the Johnsons' current stance and Ethan's situation. In front of her, Benjamin Harper took out his phone, found Richard Johnson's number, and dialed. The wait was excruciating. Amelia felt a knot of anxiety, terrified of hearing bad news. The call connected. Richard Johnson's slightly fawning voice came through. "Benjamin, calling so late? What's up?" "Just wanted to check on Ethan's situation. Is he still carrying on about breaking the engagement?" Benjamin asked, thinking it was a simple question. From his perspective, Ethan had no reason to break it off. It would gain him nothing but trouble. Why throw everything away over a moment of pique? Silence stretched on the other end. Even Benjamin Harper, usually slow on the uptake, sensed something was wrong. "What's going on? Does he really intend to break up with my daughter?" "Benjamin, you know how it is. Parents can't really interfere in matters of the heart. We have to let the kids sort it out themselves. Ethan's older now, and he's stubborn. I've said everything I could, scolded him as much as possible." Benjamin Harper sneered. "So, you're saying you want to call off the engagement now?" Richard Johnson was speechless. "Fine, break it off. But you'd better return the money as well. My daughter is outstanding. She can have any man she wants." It was his good fortune that Amelia even gave him the time of day, and he didn't know how to cherish it. Plenty of others would. "Does he seriously think my daughter can't get married without your family? As long as Amelia wishes it. There isn't a man she couldn't have." Richard Johnson replied weakly, Yes, you're right. Amelia is exceptional. Ethan isn't worthy. But Ethan has already cut ties with us. There's truly nothing more I can do. We are deeply sorry about what happened to your daughter. Tell us what you want us to do to make amends. Anything. But the money invested in the project, we really can't get it back right now. Perhaps. Could you give us a little more time? Let us get back on our feet. Though not on speakerphone, the voice was audible in the quiet room. Hearing that Ethan had actually disowned his family to break the engagement, Amelia felt like her heart had been seized by an invisible hand. Ethan really cut ties with the Johnsons. He's not marrying her. Richard Johnson, ever the businessman despite his family drama, humbly added, Benjamin, let's set up a meeting to discuss the project. Even if the children weren't meant to be, Our family's business interests remain. This venture won't lose money, you know. He's strict and demanding with his own family, yet completely subservient when it comes to Harper Enterprises. Benjamin Harper retorted angrily, I don't do business with people who don't keep their word. He hung up abruptly. Seeing Amelia's distraught expression, Benjamin Harper didn't know how to console her. 10 minutes ago, he'd been confident Ethan couldn't possibly break the engagement. Now, reality had slapped him in the face. What was going on? He racked his brain, but couldn't fathom Ethan's motives. Didn't he love his daughter? How could he give up so easily when they were so close to marriage? Amelia, do you like Ethan that much? If you do, I'll have someone drag him over here. Amelia snapped back to reality, lifting her heavy eyelids. Like him? Who does he think he is? So many men adore me. I don't need him. If he wants to break it off, fine. Benjamin Harper breathed a sigh of relief. Good. It's good you can think that way. On reflection, if Amelia had truly loved Ethan, she wouldn't have run off in the wedding rehearsal yesterday. Amelia gritted her teeth. But we have to be the ones to officially break this engagement. Otherwise, I won't be able to swallow this insult. Do whatever you want. Dad supports you. Amelia was far too arrogant. She assumed Ethan would never leave her, no matter what happened. To her, he was like the jewelry in her box, always there, even if neglected, gathering dust, growing old, or even breaking. He wouldn't just disappear, couldn't just sprout legs and run off. That's why Ethan's sudden decision to break off the engagement hit her so hard, leaving her unable to accept it. Benjamin Harper had initially been quite angry about Amelia going to see William the day before. But seeing her utterly exhausted face now, he lost the heart to scold her. Get some proper rest, he said gently. If you can't stomach this, I'll handle it for you. How dare he treat my daughter like this? I'll make sure he can't set foot in Rosewood City again. Amelia recalled Ethan's words from earlier that day. The irony wasn't lost on her. Back then, she too had believed she had him completely under her thumb. Dad, I can handle Ethan. Please stay out of it. For some inexplicable reason, she didn't want Ethan to leave Rosewood City. Didn't want him too far away. Perhaps it stemmed from sheer unwillingness to accept defeat. There was a popular saying online, living well is the best revenge. Ethan wasn't technically her ex, but he had no right to unilaterally break off their engagement without discussion and then block her. She was going to show Ethan exactly what happens when you act impulsively. You end up with nothing. Benjamin Harper added, if anything goes wrong, I've got your back. There are plenty of fish in the sea. Find someone more compliant, but choose carefully this time. Make sure his family background is at least stronger than the Johnson family's. Amelia knew her dad was hinting at William. After Benjamin Harper left, Amelia picked up her phone and scrolled through it, noticing a missed video call from William 5 minutes earlier. She called him back. William was still at the Mayo Clinic, though he looked considerably better on screen than he had yesterday. Are you okay? William asked, concerned. Your father didn't blame you for yesterday, did he? No. What about Ethan? William pressed gently. Have you seen him? Did you manage to talk things through? Amelia's voice turned stiff. I don't want to talk about him right now. Noticing her dark expression, William hesitated before saying, Aaron just told me something. Ethan's going to be on a reality TV show. You know the type? It's basically for dating and shipping couples for publicity. Ethan is still your fiancé, Amelia. How could he possibly agree to something like that? He clearly has no respect for you. Amelia's face remained impassive, but her grip on her phone tightened. News about Ethan joining a dating show was already buzzing on Twitter. Amelia had even seen the leak to TMZ. If the hype wasn't shut down quickly, it would inevitably hit Twitter trends. In this age of viral content, people involved in such scandals naturally attracted massive attention. Getting onto Twitter trends was easy. Suppressing them was the real challenge. Aaron already confirmed it with the director. William continued, laying it on thick. Ethan joins the production crew the day after tomorrow to start filming. Once these rumors are confirmed, Harper Enterprises' reputation will definitely take a hit. Sigh. Ethan is really spineless, not thinking about you at all. The Johnson and Harper alliance means we rise and fall together. How could he disregard your face and Benjamin Harper's? William deliberately ran Ethan down. You seem to know a lot about this show, Amelia asked coolly. Well, Aaron actually booked me for it too, William explained quickly. But I'm not going there to date. I'm part of the observation panel in the studio. The contract was signed ages ago. I know the director quite well. If you don't want Ethan on the show, I could have a word with him. Although, they've already signed the contracts. There's a hefty penalty for breaking them, so the director won't want to let Ethan go easily. Amelia listened intently, her brow furrowed. She decided to just tell him the truth. Ethan and I have already broken off the engagement. His business is none of mine. William fell silent for a long moment. Finally, a stiff, unnatural smile touched his lips. How is that possible? How could he bear to leave you? He not only dared to break things off with me, Amelia stated flatly, he dared to cut ties with the Johnson family entirely. This was completely beyond William's expectations, though certainly welcome news. Before he could fully process his elation, Amelia's voice came through the phone again. Can I join that show you're on? You can probably bring a guest, William stammered, surprised. But why would you want to go? Won't seeing Ethan be awkward? The thought of Ethan flirting with other women on national television made Amelia's chest tighten with suppressed rage. Seeing it might be awkward, she conceded, but not seeing it and letting my imagination run wild would be even worse. All right, if you really want to come, I'll talk to the director, William agreed. You can join me the day after tomorrow. I'm just a little worried people online will start speculating wildly about us again. It's fine. Let them speculate. Amelia cut in. I need to deal with Ethan. Before William could respond, she hung up. Amelia had always done things her own way. Once her mind was made up, she acted swiftly and decisively. She logged into her Twitter account. Yesterday's ambiguous tweet, just friends, had sparked endless online debate. Since she hadn't specified who she meant, some assumed she was clarifying things with William, while others believed it was about Ethan. Publicly, her relationship with Ethan was still perceived as intact. No one knew about the broken engagement, as neither family had made an official statement. Amelia typed out a new message and hit post. Mr. Johnson and I have officially called off our engagement. From this point forward, we will go our separate ways. I have spent these past years attempting to build a relationship with him, but ultimately found we could not connect on a deeper emotional level. Since we cannot be lovers, we can only remain friends. This time, Amelia didn't try to control the narrative. Instead, she paid for a marketing campaign to deliberately steer online opinion. The spin? She was the victim in this arranged marriage, completely forced into being with Ethan. Now, she'd supposedly seen the light, charging ahead for love and choosing to make a clean break from him. A video even surfaced on Twitter trends. A split screen showing Ethan, isolated and helpless on a stage, contrasted with Amelia celebrating William's birthday charity ball at the Mayo Clinic. The comments below were dripping with sarcasm and schadenfreude. OMG, our rekindled romance ship is real. Turns out the just friends line was for Ethan, telling him not to get any ideas. All you haters who dragged William before, where are you now? But your faces sting. #slapped. See? That's what happens when you try to break up a happy couple. Ethan knew Amelia liked someone else, but still forced this marriage on her. Was he that desperate to get married? William and Amelia are in-game. Childhood sweethearts, rekindled love. How could a latecomer like Ethan even compare? And stop pitying Ethan in the replies. Sipping for guys like him gets you nowhere. He was just putting on an act. Everyone knows he was only with Amelia for her money. Now that she dumped him, he jumped straight onto a dating show. What's the plan? Find a rich sugar mama on reality TV. Ethan, a gold digger? Really? Isn't he supposed to be some rich heir? Reliable sources say Ethan got kicked out by the Johnson family. Means he's broke now. He's useless. Probably looking for a rich woman to mooch off. Hope the girls on that show keep their eyes wide open and steer clear of broke eyes. Events unfolded exactly as Amelia had planned, completely one-sided. To support Amelia's narrative, the Johnson Group even issued an official statement. The Johnson and Harper engagement was off, leaving both parties free to pursue their own relationships. As for Ethan, revealing his estrangement from the family wasn't opportune just yet, so he was simply ignored, treated like thin air. Reason rarely prevails online. Netizens latch onto fragments, seeing only one side. Truths obvious to anyone paying attention can be easily twisted with a little incitement, quickly escalating into cyberbullying. William had been watching the online developments closely. He smiled with satisfaction when he saw Amelia had finally chosen him over Ethan. Still, it wasn't enough. He secretly fanned the flames, determined to permanently brand Ethan as the home-wrecking third party. In any case, on the day Ethan was set to start filming, Twitter was still buzzing furiously. Ethan, however, remained completely unfazed, sleeping when he needed sleep, eating when he needed to eat. He packed light, bought a plane ticket, and left Rosewood City for the show's filming location. The show's production crew had done an excellent job maintaining secrecy. Filming was about to begin, yet the cast list remained unannounced, leaving everything up to online speculation. The director met Ethan. Did you see the Twitter trends? What trends? The director gave him a long, meaningful look, then patted his shoulder with a sigh. Maybe it's better you don't know. All right, Next step is phone collection. We'll provide you with new communication devices. Since filming hasn't officially started, contact anyone you need to now, send out any group notifications. Ethan shook his head. I don't have anyone to contact. Right then, the director didn't press the issue or suggest Ethan check Twitter, seeing all that would only sour his mood. After verifying his Twitter account, Ethan had immediately set it to Do Not Disturb to avoid interruptions. Just because he hadn't checked it in the last couple of days didn't mean he was oblivious. It was merely a rehash of the nationwide online hate campaign he'd endured in his previous life. William simps were obsessed with shipping their couple and tearing others down. Last time, even after he and Amelia were officially married, those obsessive fans constantly bombarded his studio's page. People were still dragging him down when he was 50, relentlessly asking if he and Amelia had divorced yet. It had been utterly exasperating. This time around, he hadn't married Amelia, just as they'd always wanted. Surely it would be better than the last time's full-blown online cancellation? Whether they hated him or not was irrelevant. It didn't affect his actual life. If anything, the current hate might even generate some buzz for him. After all, being infamous is still a form of fame. Ethan didn't know much about reality TV. He recalled this particular show being a massive hit in his past life, though he'd never actually watched it. Love on the Journey, he mused, sounded like a travel show. Perfect. A chance to travel for free and sample local cuisine. He wondered where their first destination would be. Ethan had tried subtly probing the production crew for details, but their lips were sealed. They wouldn't reveal a single word, just gave him these complex looks, a mixture of pity and something akin to smug amusement. A bad feeling started to creep in. As the car drove further and further, the cityscape dissolved into rolling hills and dusty dirt roads. After nearly 2 hours of bumpy travel, the vehicle finally rolled to a stop. We're here. Startled awake, Ethan pushed aside the window curtain. The view was surprisingly scenic, lush mountains and clear streams. The environment itself was nice, though the lodgings might be a bit jarring for someone used to city comforts. The first stop for Love on the Journey was Oak Ridge Farm. The premise: experience local rural life and find true love through nature and shared labor. The production crew hadn't splurged, merely renting a small courtyard house. While other dating shows featured lavish villas, this cast got a large, single-story farmhouse. Inside stood a plain, rustic round table surrounded by 6 plastic chairs. The bathrooms weren't indoors. 2 outhouses, designated male and female, stood outside, clearly hastily constructed. And right next to the latrines, a pigsty. You could smell it just walking by. Ethan was the first contestant to arrive. With time to kill, he helped the crew set up some camera equipment. Seeing the environment, the livestream comments section immediately went ballistic. Seriously? They expect romance to blossom here? Isn't this asking for breakups? The moment I heard Travel Plus dating, I knew it was SUS. How many couples break up during vacations? Travel either leads to the altar or Splitsville. Is it live already? Who's the first one there? I heard the contestants are all loaded. Putting rich folks in a place like this Greenfield Township? LMAO, this is going to be a disaster waiting to happen. With the endless stream of new reality shows, a format like this was unusual, drawing in curious viewers. Ethan finished touring the house. Just 4 bedrooms in total, 2 doubles, 2 singles. Hearing a vehicle approach, he pushed open a window and looked down. Someone else had arrived. A black SUV rolled slowly into the yard. A door opened, and a flash of crimson emerged. The woman had fair skin, and the red dress she wore accentuated a stunningly voluptuous figure. As she stepped out, even the sunlight seemed momentarily dimmed by her presence. Long, wavy hair cascaded down to her waist, drawing attention to shapely hips and long, alluring legs. Oversized sunglasses hid most of her face. Apparently sensing his gaze, she tilted her head up slightly, her eyes meeting Ethan's. Who is that? Why does she feel familiar? The woman's red lips curved into a knowing smile. She casually crooked a finger, beckoning him over with an air of familiarity. Ethan was completely baffled. Figuring she might need a hand with something, he headed outside. The closer he got, the stronger that nagging sense of familiarity became. It hit him when the woman spoke, removing her sunglasses. Don't you recognize me? Her eyes sparkled like spring water, her gaze sultry and captivating, the kind that could make knees buckle. The cameraman focused on her, nearly lost his grip on the camera. Viewers watching the live stream fell silent for a beat, then the comments section erupted. Is that a goddess? The first female contestant. Is this gorgeous? How are the others supposed to follow? Maybe the next ones are even more stunning. She's gorgeous. She'd blow up if she went to Hollywood. I need her info ASAP. Name? Socials. Anything. Who's the guy standing there? Almost didn't notice him next to her, lol. Kinda plain, no? Wait, he looks familiar. Seen him somewhere recently. Isn't that Ethan? Looks like he knows the goddess. Lucky him. Elmio, Ethan looks totally stunned. Can't blame him with a stunner like her right there. Ethan was indeed stunned, but not because he was starstruck by her beauty. He was reeling from the shock of seeing her here. Victoria, Amelia's aunt. From the moment Victoria removed her sunglasses, Ethan stood speechless, dumbfounded, a chaotic mix of emotions churning inside him. The production crew is definitely trying to stir up drama, he thought frantically. Inviting Amelia's aunt? What do they want, a catfight? The horrifying possibility that he might be paired up with Victoria for dates sent a cold dread creeping up his spine, leaving him utterly terrified. Ethan asked directly, "Why did you join this reality show? If you can, why can't I?" Victoria Harper commanded him, "Go, get my luggage from the trunk." Ethan was completely baffled. Victoria Harper was a confirmed bachelorette in his past life. He never heard any news of her getting married before he died. He'd certainly never seen her join a dating show. Speaking of Victoria Harper, although she was Amelia Harper's aunt, she was only 4 years older than Amelia. He met Victoria Harper a year ago when he had just started dating Amelia Harper. He went with Amelia to her maternal grandfather's house for Thanksgiving. He and Victoria Harper added each other on WhatsApp and exchanged phone numbers, but they rarely contacted each other privately. In his past life, after he married Amelia Harper, he often visited the Harper family. Towards Victoria Harper, he treated her as an elder with utmost respect. Therefore, seeing her in this setting made Ethan feel intimidated. Just thinking about a dating show, stirring up ships, and having one of the female contestants be your elder. The feeling was truly bizarre. Although he had no connection to Amelia Harper in this life, a mindset ingrained over 30 years wasn't easy to change overnight. At Victoria Harper's instruction, Ethan moved her suitcases inside. 2 large suitcases, who knew what she packed. They were quite heavy. When they were alone, Victoria Harper leaned in. "What? You still see me as your aunt?" Ethan was speechless. Victoria Harper leaned closer, her fragrance lingering around his nose. She reached out and brushed dust off his shoulder. "You've already broken off the engagement with Amelia Harper, so stop calling me aunt. From now on, call me by my name, Victoria Harper or Yinjia. Don't get wrong." Ethan nodded stiffly. Victoria Harper seemed in a good mood, humming a tune as she turned away. Right now, nobody knew about his connection to Victoria Harper. If people found out Victoria Harper was Amelia Harper's aunt, Twitter would go crazy. Currently, the Twitch chat was asking who Victoria Harper was, why she knew Ethan, and what their relationship was. The show had just started, and Victoria Harper had already shot up the Twitter trends purely based on her beauty. Ethan watched her retreating figure, lamenting that the production crew really loved stirring up trouble. He didn't dwell on it. Things you weren't used to, you just had to adapt slowly. This show would last a month at most. Once this month was over, they'd go their separate ways. Ethan was originally an open-minded person, and after being reborn, he understood the principle of finding joy in contentment. It was still the same sentiment. As long as they paid, everything was manageable. The other participants arrived one after another. Since the location was remote, everyone drove themselves. Ethan subconsciously looked to see who they were. When he got a clear look, his eyelid twitched, and for the first time, he regretted his decision. Among the female contestants, besides Amelia Harper's aunt, her best friend had also come. Olivia Bennett. In his past life, when he married Amelia Harper, she was the maid of honor. During the time he was with Amelia Harper, this person constantly belittled and criticized him, saying he couldn't compare to William in any way and wasn't good enough for Amelia Harper. Ethan could already imagine how noisy things would get. As for the other one, her looks rivaled Victoria Harper's. Different from Victoria Harper's sexy allure, the white haute couture dress she wore made her seem like a white camellia in the morning sun, slim waist, long legs, as if she were there for a runway show. Ethan's eyelid twitched because of her. She was, arguably, his first love. Her name was Grace Parker, the youngest actress in the country to achieve a Grand Slam award. No one in Hollywood didn't know her name. Beautiful and talented, even if she usually kept a low profile, she had over 50 million followers. William couldn't even compare to her. If her fans found out their favorite actress once had a past with him, they could probably drown him in spit. Ethan had underestimated the production crew. They were resourceful enough to invite Grace Parker. The production crew's secrecy was too good. Not a whisper had leaked out. Who knows how crazy the audience watching the live stream was now. Grace Parker had always been quite laid back, Buddhist style, in Hollywood. Nobody ever thought she would participate in this kind of reality show. It didn't match her status, and secondly, she was still young, her career on the rise. Previously having zero scandals, now she was deliberately creating one for herself. Many fans cried out about a fandom collapse. The show's popularity had already peaked. Netizens, drawn by the scent of drama, tuned in, and the viewership surpassed 100 million, easily breaking historical records. The more viewers, the more Ethan got flamed. He felt like his paycheck was shrinking. He wasn't sure if that little bit of money could even cover his upcoming emotional distress damages. Despite these thoughts, the contract was signed. Ethan was a man of his word. He wouldn't back down from something he'd agreed to. As for the male contestants, Ethan didn't know any of them. But to match the female contestants, their qualifications wouldn't be poor. Appearance-wise, they each had their own merits. One was the domincio type, another a fresh young meat type. Ethan looked quite ordinary standing there. As a 55-year-old middle-aged man, mentally, he hadn't bothered to tidy himself up. He simply washed his hair and threw on a dark t-shirt he grabbed randomly from the closet. The sun was too bright, making him squint, looking lethargic. Olivia Bennet was the first to speak. Seeing Ethan, she rolled her eyes dramatically and said sarcastically, "What bad luck. How can the production crew invite just anyone? Also, what kind of dump is this? Not even a mall nearby. How can anyone live here? It stinks the moment you walk in. Director, can't you find another location? The show we joined is Love on the Journey, not Journey to Death." "LMAO, Miss Olivia, if you know how to talk, please say more." Did I see that right? Why would Grace Parker join this kind of show? This should just be a regular variety show, not necessarily about dating, right? This show really splashed the cash, even getting the Best Actress. I'm a Grace Parker fan. Why isn't she filming movies? What's she doing here? Feels like a fandom collapse. The female guests are all gorgeous. If it were me, I wouldn't know who to choose. But my favorite is the first one, Victoria Harper. She's the only non-celebrity among the female guests. Compared to the women, the male guests seem a bit plain, especially Ethan. Is he just here to be wallpaper? No idea why the production crew invited him. Maybe to make the others look better? With Olivia Bennet and Grace Parker's arrival, the number of online viewers surged. Being good friends with Amelia Harper meant Olivia Bennet's family background was naturally well off. She was a bona fide heiress. Olivia Bennet had been trying to make it in the entertainment industry for the past few years, dabbling for 4 or 5 years without much success. She debuted early in a girl group as an idol, but was constantly criticized for slacking on her basic skills within the group. In a fit of anger, she quit the group. Afterward, she tried acting, using her connections to get roles in some low-budget web dramas. Rumors spread that she acted like a diva. Her acting was terrible, a vase good for nothing but looks. In short, her reputation was awful. Now, she had switched careers again, preparing to become a variety show personality. Unexpectedly, the first variety show she recorded featured Ethan. Regarding Olivia Bennet's mockery, Ethan pretended not to hear. He walked forward to greet the 2 male contestants. "Hello, I'm Ethan." "Hello, my name is Christopher Foster." "Logan Prescott." The young, fresh meat was Logan Prescott. The young dominant CEO was Christopher Foster. At the production crew's first gathering, everyone was in a state of exploring the new environment and getting acquainted. Except for Olivia Bennet, everyone was friendly. After all, it was a live broadcast, so maintaining good relations, at least superficially, was necessary. Ethan stood in an inconspicuous corner, maintaining a smile, not wanting to talk. He was very aware of his role. He was here to take the heat. Grace Parker walked past several people and suddenly stopped in front of Ethan. "Ethan, long time no see." Her lips curved slightly, her voice as gentle as a spring breeze. Ethan felt a mix of emotions, but still replied politely, "Long time no see." Grace Parker didn't seem to notice Ethan's detachment and continued, "How have you been lately? I saw you broke off your engagement." As soon as she said this, almost everyone's gaze turned to him. It was hard to tell if Grace Parker was being innocently blunt or saying it deliberately. "I'm fine. Thank you for your concern, Ms. Parker." This was their Hollywood custom. Anyone with a bit of fame would be addressed as teacher. Grace Parker frowned slightly, a flicker of sadness crossing her eyes. "I hope we can get along well from now on. If there are difficulties, we can help each other." Ethan replied perfunctorily, "Okay." The live camera zoomed in on them, creating a tense, confrontational atmosphere. Some were curious about their relationship, others enjoyed the drama, but most hoped for a fight to break out. Olivia Bennet, unable to hold back, asked directly, "You know each other? What's your relationship?" Ethan was contemplating how to explain his relationship with Grace Parker. Grace Parker smiled and answered, You could say, childhood sweethearts, perhaps. The term childhood sweethearts sounded excessively intimate. Old acquaintances could have easily replaced it. After Grace Parker spoke, there was a moment of silence. Grace Parker looked at Ethan. Ethan, am I wrong? In this situation, Ethan couldn't pretend not to know her. We've known each other since we were kids. Victoria Harper, standing behind the camera, her expression changed slightly. Twitch chat exploded again. Are you kidding me? How does Grace Parker know Ethan? They seem totally unrelated. I feel like their relationship is really close, not just ordinary friends. She already said childhood sweethearts. How could they be just ordinary friends? Maybe it's just me, but I feel like Best Actress Grace's gaze towards Ethan isn't innocent. Curious what happened between them. Olivia Bennett, please ask more. Are you blind up there? Which male guest here isn't better than Ethan? How could Best Actress Grace possibly like Ethan? Ethan's luck is insane, right? He knows all these female guests. Knowing them doesn't mean they'll choose him. In the observation lounge, Amelia Harper and William sat together. She ultimately joined the show with William, becoming one of the observers. The show was filming in Rosewood City, in a specially constructed set. It was Amelia Harper's first time on a reality show, lacking experience, relying entirely on William's guidance. Initially, Amelia Harper could divide her attention and chat with William, but once Ethan appeared on the livestream camera, she couldn't stop staring at the screen. Amelia Harper harbored a hidden thought. Since she couldn't stop Ethan from joining this trashy reality show, she would tarnish his reputation, make him look bad, so other women wouldn't like him. Amelia Harper had secretly inquired about the female contestants participating. She only knew about Olivia Bennett. Olivia Bennett was her friend and naturally wouldn't like Ethan, so she felt reassured. She couldn't find out about the other two female guests despite using many connections. The production crew had made last-minute changes, and she didn't know who they were, only finding out by watching the live broadcast. The first to appear was Victoria Harper. Seeing her own Anne on the show, Amelia Harper was incredulous, even thinking she was hallucinating. Given Victoria Harper's status, why would she join in this commotion? However, seeing it was Victoria Harper, Amelia Harper also felt a sense of relief. No matter what, Ethan would never get romantically involved with her aunt. But when she saw Victoria Harper ordering Ethan to help with her luggage, Amelia Harper still frowned unhappily. A strange feeling arose in her heart. It felt like Victoria Harper was being overly familiar with Ethan, seemingly with ulterior motives. Victoria Harper clearly knew Ethan had broken off the engagement with her and that relations with Harper Enterprises were very strained. Shouldn't she know to keep her distance? Yet she still got so close. The last remaining female guest was also unexpected, Best Actress Grace Parker, who alone had 60 million followers on Twitter. Among these three, Grace Parker was the most likely to develop a romantic relationship with Ethan. Amelia Harper felt an inexplicable sense of crisis, her grip tightening on her water glass. But then she reconsidered. Grace Parker, such an outstanding actress, a multi-award-winning Best Actress. What kind of men hadn't she seen in Hollywood? Ethan seemed so ordinary among them. How could such an excellent woman possibly choose him? If she were to choose, it would be one of the other two male contestants. Grace Parker definitely wouldn't be interested in Ethan. Just as she thought this, she saw Grace Parker walk directly towards Ethan. Seeing her proactively greet Ethan and then explain to everyone that her relationship with Ethan was childhood sweethearts, Amelia Harper nearly crushed the glass in her hand. Even though Amelia knew the cameras were rolling, recording her every emotion, magnifying it for everyone to see, she couldn't control the terrifyingly dark expression on her face. More than anyone, she wanted to know how Ethan knew Grace Parker. Why had she never heard him mention a childhood sweetheart like this? Just how many things had he hidden from her? William chimed in at the right moment, echoing the viewers in the Twitch chat. Wow, I didn't expect Ethan and Grace Parker to know each other. Amelia, you've known Ethan the longest. Did you know he had a friend like this? He never mentioned it. I don't care about his business, Amelia sneered. Didn't care? Then why did she look so upset right now? It feels like Ethan and Grace Parker have a really special connection. They'll probably be the easiest pair to match up. In the observation lounge, besides William and Amelia, were the host Liam, movie star Daniel Ford, girl group leader Sophia, and psychologist Nathaniel Ellis. It was Sophia who had spoken, and Amelia shot her an icy glare. Just then, someone else asked, "Who's this Victoria Harper? She's gorgeous. Surely not just some internet celebrity? If she were, she'd have blown up already." To stop them from randomly playing matchmaker, Amelia stated plainly, "She's my uncle." "Your uncle is so young." Amelia didn't respond. No wonder she seems so familiar with Ethan. Looks like there's no chance for those two, then. I was actually shipping them pretty hard at the beginning. Amelia's expression, which had just softened, darkened again. She even felt like getting up and leaving. Thankfully, the conversation shifted to other participants, leaving Ethan unmentioned for a while. Ethan had calculated everything, except for Grace Parker blurting out their past relationship in front of so many people. Was she trying to get him crucified on Twitter? Ethan wasn't narcissistic enough to think Grace Parker had come on the show for him. There wasn't much left to say between them. It was all in the past. Ethan was essentially from a past life, meaning, chronologically speaking, he and Grace Parker had been separated for over 30 years. If he hadn't suddenly seen her today, he wouldn't have remembered her at all. Olivia Bennett scoffed. Childhood sweethearts? How come I've never heard you mention that? Ethan was speechless. What's our relationship? Why should I tell you my business? What, are you interested in me? Who's interested in you? You're so shameless. If you're not interested, then mind your own business less. Although he was prepared for criticism, he wasn't going to swallow every insult silently. With people like Olivia Bennett, ignoring her only made her pushier and more arrogant. To Ethan, Olivia Bennett was like a child who hadn't grown up. He wouldn't stoop to her level, but he wouldn't hesitate to teach her a lesson when necessary. Seeing a fight brewing, the director quickly appeared to assign the first task, cleaning. They had to clean the entire house inside and out. The production crew would then inspect it, and only after passing would food be distributed. Olivia Bennett, already fuming from her encounter with Ethan, vented her frustration at the director. This place is huge. Just the 6 of us have to clean it. That's right. No work, no lunch. You have 2 hours until lunchtime. Oh, and for lunch, we only provide the ingredients. You have to cook it yourselves. The task was certainly cliché and exhausting. Apart from Ethan, every guest present was dressed impeccably. An award-winning actress, celebrities, a CEO, young ladies of privilege. Gathered together, none looking like they were accustomed to housework. Olivia Bennett looked disdainfully at the dilapidated little courtyard, full of cobwebs and insects that made her skin crawl. Christopher, the oldest among the guests, spoke up. I grew up on Oak Ridge Farm, so I'm quite familiar with this kind of environment. How about I assign the tasks? Everyone agreed. The men, being stronger, took on most of the heavy lifting. The women were responsible for wiping tables and sweeping floors. Ethan was assigned the kitchen. It seemed easy, but the kitchen was the greasiest area. Fortunately, the production crew provided cleaning supplies. He methodically took the bowls out of the cabinets, wiping them before washing, and then took the clean dishes outside to dry in the sun. He scraped the grease off the sides of the pots with a spatula. The originally yellowed and blackened countertops gradually turned white. The scene was deeply satisfying for anyone with OCD. Ethan clearly does housework often. Look how skilled he is. Ethan's so fast. Suddenly, I don't dislike him as much anymore. What detergent is that? It cleans so well. So satisfying for OCD. Production team, drop the link. Compared to Ethan, the others obviously had little experience with chores, fumbling around chaotically. Ethan had the largest workload, but finished the fastest. In less than 2 hours, the once filthy kitchen was spotless and tidy. After finishing, he leaned against the wall to rest, sipping water and watching the others. Olivia Bennett shrieked at the sight of spiderwebs. Grace Parker slowly tidied a bedroom. Victoria Harper was quick, but her dress hindered her movement. She kicked off her high heels and tied her skirt hem into a knot. Logan stood on a ladder, cleaning the ceiling and windows, while Christopher dealt with the weeds outside. You might think Ethan would offer to help, but no, he was watching leisurely. Some people started to feel resentful, especially Olivia Bennett. Having nearly argued with Ethan earlier, she now cluelessly tried to order him around again. Ethan, what are you doing just standing there? Come give us a hand. The sooner we finish, the sooner we can cook. I'm starving. Olivia Bennett instinctively ordered Ethan, assuming he would definitely help, especially since she'd often seen Amelia boss him around before, treating him like a dog who did everything he was told. Indeed, in such a situation, anyone with basic manners would step up to help. Ethan put down his cup. Do your own work. What does your hunger have to do with me? Olivia Bennett froze, unable to believe Ethan would refuse her. She snapped angrily. You're not doing anything right now anyway. So what's the big deal about helping out? Just because I'm free means I have to help you? Did you forget to bring your hands or your brain? Ethan, you. Christopher stepped in to ease the tension. Olivia, let me help you. I'm almost done over here. Furious, Olivia Bennett glared at Ethan, then turned to Christopher. Thank you, you're so kind. Unlike some people who have no gentlemanly manners or team spirit. No wonder he got dumped. The show had barely begun, and the conflict among the guests had already escalated to personal attacks. Ethan pretended not to hear. He asked the director, Director, I've finished cleaning my area. Can I go for a walk? You can, but like I said, if the house isn't completely clean, I won't distribute food to any of you, the director reminded him, also curious to see if Ethan would stay and help the team. Ethan remained firm. Whatever. I'm not hungry right now anyway. The old Ethan would have cared about what others thought and compromised. But now, he wouldn't do thankless work. He had a feeling that life at Oak Ridge Farm would only get busier. If he helped once, he'd be expected to help a second time. Just because he worked fast didn't mean he should be ordered around. Besides, in the division of labor, he had already taken on the bulk of the work. The women only had to sweep and wipe tables, which was already quite easy. Ethan decided to establish a persona for himself. A straightforward guy with zero emotional intelligence, possessing an incredible obliviousness. No matter how passive-aggressively Olivia Bennett insulted him, he simply wouldn't understand. He already had millions of haters, so one more or less didn't make a difference. The director didn't stop him. All right, you can head out. Just be back before 1 p.m. Okay. Ethan didn't go far, just wandered around the vicinity. The area was surrounded by Oak Ridge Farm, and there was a fish pond about 310, 69 miles from Oak Ridge Retreat. In his past life, after turning 50, Ethan's greatest pleasures were fishing, gardening, and playing chess. With the cameraman in tow, Ethan strolled around. The Oak Ridge community was quiet, the air fresh. Passers-by stared curiously, but didn't approach to chat. Seeing someone fishing, Ethan approached. Mr. Smith, can I fish here? Sure, but they're hard to catch. I've been sitting here all morning and only caught 2 crucian carp. Not even enough for a meal. Just as he finished speaking, Mr. Smith got a call, his family telling him to come home for lunch. I have to go home for lunch. If you want to fish, you can borrow my rod. Just return it when you're done. Ethan didn't refuse and took the fishing rod. That'd be great. Thank you. If I catch anything, I'll give you half. Where do you live? Sure thing. My place is that white house over there. Facing the camera, Mr. Smith looked a bit awkward, gave a couple of nervous laughs, and then left. Ethan happily took the rod, changed the bait, found a new spot, and squatted down. Watching someone else fish is incredibly boring. Many people left Ethan's Twitch chat, making sure to throw some shade on their way out. Leaving, this is so boring. Why fishing of all things? Didn't you hear Mr. Smith say the fish are hard to catch? Olivia Bennett was totally right about him. Ethan has no team spirit. He'd rather sit here, spacing out, than help everyone finish work and eat lunch sooner. No wonder his fiancée dumped him. He deserved it. The fisherman only caught 2 small fish all morning. How could Ethan possibly catch anything? He's just slacking off. With this much time, he should go back and cook. Does a rich kid like Ethan even know how to cook? I bet he's just waiting for the food to be ready back at Oak Ridge Retreat, so he can waltz in and eat. They shouldn't save him any. Let him eat slop. Suddenly, the fishing rod twitched. Ethan, who had been looking lazy, sharply lifted the rod. There was a strong downward pull. This fish must be big. Ethan slowly stood up, controlling his strength as he reeled in the line. A 5 to 6 pound carp was pulled out of the water. The haters who had just been mocking Ethan's inability to catch fish were stunned. Ethan calmly tossed the fish into the creel and sat back down in his spot to continue fishing. Passers-by, who had been about to leave, decided to stay and watch. Must be a coincidence. I know, it's beginner's luck. It's noon. Maybe the fish are having lunch too. I'm staying right here today. I refuse to believe Ethan can catch a second one. The rod twitched again. Ethan lifted it. Judging by the feel, it was a fish around 2 pounds. Damn. Sick. Ethan's Twitch stream viewer count, which started at 100,000, kept climbing and had now reached 2 million. Even the director back at Oak Ridge Retreat curiously pulled out his phone to watch. Some people sit all morning and catch 2 small fish. Others sit for 30 minutes and catch 4 big ones. Ethan had a knack for fishing. It was a talent he couldn't quite explain, but as long as there were fish in the water, he could catch them. Those who had been criticizing him earlier had quietly shut up. The only ones persistently hating were Williams fans. Ethan hefted the creel. This many fish would be enough. He packed up the fishing rod and carried the creel towards Mr. Smith's house. Mr. Smith, I've come to return the rod. So soon? Did you catch anything? Yup, 4 of them. Let's split them. Ethan put down the creel. 4. Mr. Smith leaned in, incredulous. He thought Ethan might have caught small ones, but the creel was almost full. He hefted it. The whole catch weighed around 5 pounds. Comparisons are killer, he thought. Why could someone else just sit down and catch so many fish? Amazing, he said aloud. If you keep fishing like this for a few more days, you'll clear out the whole pond. Mr. Smith, let's divide them. There are only 3 of us at home. 1 4 pound fish is plenty. You take the other 3 back. You have more people for your show. We can't eat 3 fish either. Ethan had an idea. How about this, Mr. Smith? Let me borrow your kitchen. I'll cook all 4 fish, and then we can split the cooked dishes. That works too, as long as you don't mind the trouble. Mr. Smith warmly invited Ethan into the kitchen, placing side ingredients and seasonings in easy reach. With Mr. Smith helping, the 4 fish were quickly cleaned. Ethan planned to make a fish hot pot. They could eat the fish for lunch and use the broth to cook vegetables for dinner. He opted for a pickled greens soup base, which would suit everyone's tastes. He set aside some fish fillets and also made a fish congee. The 4 fish yielded 3 large pots of food. Judging by the way Ethan handled the fish, it was clear he was skilled. Viewers felt like they could smell the aroma through the screen. The broth was golden yellow, and the cameraman beside him couldn't help but swallow hard. Mr. Smith asked, "Smells amazing. You must have studied cooking, right?" "I specifically learned Cajun cuisine." The thinly sliced fish fillets were added last. As they cooked through, hot oil was drizzled over the top. Chili flakes, scallions, ginger, garlic, and Sichuan peppercorns were placed on top, and then a final splash of hot oil made them sizzle. The Maillard reaction in full effect. Gulp. Someone swallowed hard. A crew member zoomed the camera in, getting a close-up of the bubbling clam chowder. Ethan knows how to cook this well. Look at that color. He could open a restaurant. So hungry, I really want to eat. Decided. Ordering clam chowder takeout today. We're the people who said Ethan couldn't cook. Eat your words. He made so much, he must be planning to share it back with everyone. Ethan's actually pretty decent, handling lunch all by himself. Meanwhile, the kitchen back at Oak Ridge Retreat looks like a bomb went off just from them trying to cook. Some people who initially disliked Ethan started to see him differently after watching him cook. Ethan divided the food into containers, splitting it evenly with Mr. Smith's family. The fisherman's family hadn't eaten yet, so they could eat right away. Feeling bad about getting the food for free, Mr. Smith went out to his garden, picked some fresh vegetables, and decided to deliver them to Oak Ridge Retreat. Meanwhile, back at Oak Ridge Retreat, the others had finally finished cleaning the house. After the director inspected and approved, he distributed the food supplies according to the rules. Cooking turned out to be a challenge. The ingredients provided by the production crew were all raw, and they only had a cast iron stove with a single large pot, no gas, making it impossible to control the heat. The attempt at cooking became a disaster zone. The kitchen, which Ethan had cleaned spotless, was now blackened and messy after an hour of struggle. The resulting food was either burnt or half raw, and the taste? Don't even mention it. Salty, fishy, and completely inedible. In the end, all they could manage was boiled vegetables with plain congee, resembling an unappetizing diet meal. The food supply, originally meant for 6 people, was now reduced by half. Christopher took responsibility. "It's all my fault. I burned the stir-fry and wasted the ingredients. It's everyone's first time cooking like this. It's normal not to get it right." Olivia Bennett comforted him. "I even mistook sugar for salt earlier." Christopher had been very attentive to her all day, so Olivia had a good impression of him and was willing to speak up for him. She thought if they had to choose a partner for a date later, she would definitely pick Christopher. She liked mature, gentle, and considerate men who would think of her needs. Christopher gave a bashful smile. "Thanks for cheering me up." Olivia Bennett was starving, but looking at the food, she had absolutely no appetite. Christopher said, "Let's eat first. We can rest afterwards. There might be tasks this afternoon. We'll figure out dinner later." Logan spoke up. "Where's Ethan?" Olivia Bennett pouted. "Who knows where he ran off to simp? There's barely enough food as it is. Let's just not save him any. He didn't help with the cooking anyway." Ethan cleaned the kitchen all by himself. So why doesn't he deserve to eat? Victoria Harper snapped, her voice rising. "According to the chore division, he earned his share. But you? You did the least work and ran your mouth the most. Are you always this mouthy? Or did your mother just never teach you any respect?" Was Victoria Harper actually losing her temper? And all because of Ethan? Olivia Bennett was stunned. It was the first time in her life anyone had spoken to her so harshly, and they were live streaming on Twitch, no less. Olivia Bennett's eyes reddened with hurt. "Victoria Harper, what gives you the right to talk to me like that? Don't think I won't curse you out just because you're Amelia's aunt." Victoria Harper crossed her arms. "Go on then, curse me out. I'm listening." To put it bluntly, Olivia Bennett had the temper of a spoiled child. Thoughtless at best, utterly lacking manners at worst. Challenged to actually curse, she couldn't come up with anything. Victoria Harper had joined this show for one specific person. She wasn't interested in anyone else. From Olivia Bennett's outburst, everyone gleaned a crucial piece of information. Victoria Harper was Amelia's aunt, and Amelia was Ethan's ex-fiancée. This relationship finally explained why Victoria Harper knew Ethan and defended him. Perhaps it was simply an elder looking out for him. Christopher paused, then said, "We don't have phones, so we can't contact Ethan. Why don't we eat first and save a portion for him? I'll go find him." Everyone looked over as Victoria Harper and Grace Parker spoke at the exact same moment. They glanced at each other, Grace Parker's eyes instantly wary. "Ms. Harper, you've been busy all morning. You should sit down and eat. I'll find Ethan." "I've completely lost my appetite thanks to certain people," Victoria retorted coolly. "A walk might help me cool off. Besides, Ms. Parker, I've been meaning to mention, calling him Ethan so intimately might not look good, don't you think?" She could tell that although Grace Parker acted close to Ethan, he only saw her as a regular friend, without any deeper feelings. Grace Parker's face hardened. "I've called him Ethan since we were kids. Ethan doesn't mind, so why should you?" "I'm worried your fans might mind," Victoria replied smoothly. "After all, Ethan's already getting dragged badly enough on Twitter." Grace Parker was momentarily speechless. The tension between them crackled like a drawn bowstring. Are they really fighting? Over Ethan? The director, who had been silent, suddenly interjected, "No need to look for him. Ethan's back." Ethan arrived right on time, accompanied by the local fishermen. Both were carrying large stainless steel pots, with bundles of fresh vegetables looped over their wrists. Ethan entered the house and immediately sensed the strained atmosphere. He placed a pot of clam chowder on the table, then took the fish congee from the fisherman. "Thanks for walking me back, man." "No problem. I'll get going then." Ordinary people weren't used to so many cameras, so after putting down the vegetables, the fisherman made a hasty exit. Ethan acted as if nothing was amiss, glancing at the meager boiled vegetables and slightly scorched rice already on the table. "Let's eat." Logan Prescott approached him. "Where did this soup come from?" "I made it myself." "Borrowed the neighbor's kitchen." "Where'd the fish come from?" "I caught it." "And these vegetables?" "I traded some fish for them." 5 pairs of eyes stared at him. Ethan was hungry. Noticing there wasn't a bowl and chopsticks set out for him, he wasn't annoyed. He simply wanted to get a set for himself, starting with the clam chowder before moving on to the fish congee. Ethan looked at the others. "Aren't you hungry? Why are you just standing there? Eat." In dating shows, seating arrangements are always a spectacle. Victoria Harper was the first to sit down, decisively taking the spot to Ethan's right. Grace Parker quickly sat down on his other side. The meal was profoundly awkward. The sight of the delicious food Ethan had brought back made Olivia Bennet's earlier complaints seem utterly ridiculous. "I'm feeling secondhand embarrassment for Olivia Bennett. Just moments ago, she said not to save food for Ethan, but does he even need them to? LOL. Compared to Ethan's clam chowder, Christopher's cooking looks like pig slop. Isn't Christopher from Oak Ridge Farm? How can he not even cook? Does being from Oak Ridge Farm automatically mean you can cook? SMH. Watching them eat makes me hungry. I want fish too." I noticed Olivia Bennett hasn't eaten a bite. Probably too embarrassed after targeting Ethan and calling him lazy for skipping out, only for him to bring back a huge pot of delicious food. Without Ethan, they would have starved this afternoon. The Twitch chat was also filled with triggered viewers, especially since Victoria Harper and Grace Parker had nearly come to blows over Ethan moments before. Can actress Grace Parker please stay away from Ethan? These secondhand goods just got dumped. What's so great about a guy like that? I'm not against her dating, but can she open her eyes and not pick up trash? Christopher and Logan Prescott are right there and seem decent. I believe Grace Parker just sees Ethan as a friend. Wow, the biggest winner is actually Ethan. Grace Parker and Victoria Harper flanking him, one pure, one sexy. If I were him, I'd be ecstatic. Wonder what Amelia thinks watching this. Grace Parker might possibly like Ethan, but Victoria Harper? No way. Didn't you hear Olivia say Victoria is Amelia's aunt? Ethan almost became her nephew-in-law. How could she possibly like him? Plus, Ethan seriously offended Harper Enterprises. I bet Victoria joined the show purely to get revenge for her niece. Agreed. I also think Victoria Harper joined to avenge her niece. Amelia stared intently at the steaming clam chowder on the screen. When she first met Ethan, he hadn't known how to cook at all. He had started learning just for her. Knowing she loved Cajun cuisine, he found a professional chef to teach him, and the very first dish he mastered was clam chowder. It was lunchtime for the observer panel too. Takeout containers were placed in front of Amelia, filled with dishes William had ordered based on her preferences. She started eating, but after seeing the clam chowder and fish congee on the stream, and reading the chat's reactions, she completely lost her appetite. "Wow, Ethan's quite the cook," one of the other observers remarked. "Seeing that makes me crave clam chowder. We should totally go get some tonight." "What's the big deal? Ethan knows how to do much more than that," Amelia thought irritably. Knowing Amelia had a short fuse, the other observers wisely avoided asking her about Ethan. Amelia focused solely on watching Ethan stream, completely missing the earlier tense exchange between Grace Parker and Victoria Harper. She only found out later from scrolling through the live comments that the two women had nearly argued over Ethan, both simultaneously offering to go find him. Amelia grew restless, staring intently at the flood of comments, desperately trying to glean some useful information. Maybe Victoria Harper really was there to help her get even, just like the comments suggested. Amelia remembered her childhood. She used to be quite close to this aunt. They weren't far apart in age. When they first met, Amelia had called her older sister, much to the amusement of the surrounding adults. She couldn't pinpoint when, but over the years, they had gradually drifted apart, their relationship becoming polite but distant. After lunch, everyone except Ethan proactively cleared the table and started washing the dishes. In typical dating shows, cooking and washing dishes were chores done by male-female pairs, rotating daily. The kitchen often became a stage for memorable romantic moments, a pink bubble generator, but also a major battleground for drama and tension. The director suggested they draw lots to form pairs for chores. Olivia Bennett muttered under her breath. Besides Ethan, who here even knows how to cook? You can't just do nothing because Ethan knows how to cook, someone retorted implicitly. I didn't say I wouldn't do anything, Olivia mumbled back. Having witnessed their collective culinary ineptitude earlier, Ethan wasn't worried about much, except potential food poisoning. Having survived stomach cancer, he was now particularly strict about what he ate. I should probably handle the cooking, Ethan offered calmly. You guys can help with prep and wash the dishes afterwards. We still need to divide the labor for prepping and cleaning, the director insisted. Let's draw lots for pairs. Olivia Bennett had no objections this time. Drawing lots was always a highlight for viewers. She desperately hoped not to draw Ethan, completely unaware that the person she wanted to avoid was the one everyone else coveted. Grace Parker glanced nervously at Ethan, then picked a slip of paper, her palms beginning to sweat. Victoria Harper picked last, appearing nonchalant, but her eyes were fixed intently on Ethan. If lips were threads, Ethan would have been thoroughly entangled by her gaze by now. Such a direct stare was impossible to miss. Ethan looked up and met her eyes directly. Seeing his slightly surprised expression, Victoria Harper offered a faint smile and picked up the last folded paper ball from the table. Everyone watched their hands eagerly, waiting to see which male contestant the women would be paired with. Olivia Bennett unfolded her paper and visibly sighed in relief. Grace Parker's face paled almost imperceptibly. Seeing their reactions, Victoria Harper knew, with certainty, she had drawn Ethan. Sure enough, she unfolded her paper. Ethan's name was written on it. The pairs were Olivia Bennett and Christopher, Grace Parker and Logan Prescott, Victoria Harper and Ethan. This result brought widespread relief, at least among the viewers. Grace Parker's fans breathed a collective sigh of relief online, flooding the live comments with messages of thanks. Thank goodness Grace Parker didn't get Ethan. Hope Ethan stays far away from actress Grace Parker from now on. Yes, lock these pairs. Perfect. Don't let Grace Parker and Ethan team up. The fans completely missed their idol's crestfallen expression. Seeing this outcome, Amelia also felt a wave of relief wash over her. But then, the camera zoomed in on Victoria Harper's subtle expression as she looked at her slip of paper. Amelia's heart gave a sudden jolt. For a fleeting second, she thought she saw a flash of triumphant possessiveness in her aunt's eyes. Was it just her imagination? After the dishes were done, the next issue was allocating the bedrooms. Olivia Bennett threw a classic spoiled princess tantrum and successfully demanded a single room. The men simply played rock, paper, scissors for the remaining single room. Ethan got lucky and won it. In the afternoon, the director didn't assign any specific tasks. Instead, everyone was given some money and allowed free time to do as they pleased. In such a remote place, however, there wasn't much to spend it on. Logan Prescott suggested, why don't we head into Maplewood Township? We can see what kind of food they have, maybe buy some things to stock up on like oatmeal with bacon bits. Ethan had also been planning to check out the nearby town, so he nodded in agreement. Logan Prescott called out to the others, Ethan and I are going into Maplewood Township to buy groceries. Anyone else want to come? Another classic reality show scenario unfolded. These group outings, especially for mundane tasks like grocery runs, were just like the chore pairings, fraught with significance regarding who went with whom and prime opportunities for sparks to fly. Let's go together, Victoria Harper said immediately. I need to buy something in Maplewood Township too. I'm not going, Olivia Bennett refused flatly. What's there even to see in Maplewood Township? I'd rather stay home and sleep. Christopher clearly had a crush on Olivia Bennet, so naturally, he wouldn't pass up this golden opportunity for time alone with her. You guys go ahead, he said. Olivia Bennet and I will hold down the fort. Although quite a few people have started seeing Ethan differently now, they still don't want to see him shipped with anyone. The production crew arranged a van. Victoria asked, "Who's driving?" "Grace Parker." "Not me." "I'll drive." Logan took the keys. Ethan immediately got into the front passenger seat, earning him a second glance from Logan, who had initially thought Ethan would sit in the back next to one of the female guests. But Ethan wouldn't dare. Both Victoria and Grace Parker were women he couldn't afford to mess with. Ethan fastened his seatbelt. Logan asked, "Does this show have a Guess the Occupation segment?" Ethan, "Haven't heard the director mention it, so probably not." Two of the female guests were public figures, and Ethan himself often trended on Twitter. Ethan asked, "Logan, what do you do?" Logan replied, "I'm in esports. I guess you could call me an online streamer." "You?" "Ethan, I'm currently unemployed, no job." "I get it. You're the heir to the Johnson Family Trust." Ethan's reputation as a trust fund kid was known all over the internet. The Johnson family was wealthy, with a net worth of $1.5 billion, and Ethan was their only son. Who else would inherit? People assumed Ethan joined the show just for fun, or perhaps, as netizens speculated, to test the waters with Amelia Harper. What do you get? Ethan could tell from Logan's expression he was jumping to conclusions. "I'm not inheriting any Johnson family trust." Logan acted as if he hadn't heard, glanced back, and asked Victoria, "Victoria, what's your job?" Same as Ethan, unemployed. Judging by Victoria's aura, she was clearly no ordinary person. Besides, Olivia Bennet had already dropped a major clue. She was Amelia's younger maternal aunt, a true heiress, likely also set to inherit shares from the Johnson Family Trust like Ethan. Logan asked probingly, "Are you and Ethan close?" Victoria, staring at the pale nape of Ethan's neck, replied, "We'll get closer." Grace Parker, sitting next to Victoria, saw it clearly. Victoria's expression was subtle yet telling, a slight smile on her lips, her gaze fixed on Ethan, nakedly direct, completely ignoring everyone else around them. This scene did not escape the viewer's eyes. Victoria looks like she wants to eat him alive. "Mom, I've spotted a siren." IDKY, but Ethan right now feels like that innocent monk. "Lady, please control yourself." The drive from Oak Ridge Community to Maplewood Township took 20 minutes. In the afternoon, Greenfield Township wasn't crowded. They found a farmer's market and bought a bunch of vegetables first, while Ethan took the opportunity to survey the area. "Logan, anything else to buy?" Greenfield Township was more boring than he'd expected. There wasn't much to buy besides vegetables. It was 3 p.m., the sun was blazing outside, and the temperature was a muggy and hot 35 degrees C. He just wanted to finish shopping and head back soon. Ethan pointed further into the market area. "I want to look around inside." "It's hot, you guys can head back first." "Then how will you get back?" Ethan replied, "I'll find my own ride back later." Most vehicles in Greenfield Township were motorcycles. He'd seen many at the intersection earlier. "What about you two?" Logan asked Victoria and Grace Parker. "I want to look around some more." "We finally got out," Victoria said. "Me too," Grace added. Since neither female guest was leaving, Logan couldn't very well leave by himself. "I'll wait for you guys in the van then. If you need anything, have a staff call me." He wasn't an idiot. He could clearly sense both women wanted a chance to be alone with Ethan. It was impossible not to feel a pang of jealousy, but attraction couldn't be forced. You either felt it or you didn't. He shot Ethan a meaningful look, silently conveying, "Bro, you lucky dog." Ethan, catching Logan's look, was completely baffled. He didn't just want to browse alone. He actively wanted to avoid company, especially since both Victoria and Grace Parker were people he couldn't afford to offend. So without a second thought, Ethan bolted. Ethan had come to Maplewood Township intending to buy some clothes. He hadn't packed much, and considering they were at Oak Ridge Farm and the way these shows usually went, they'd likely be assigned farm chores soon. Buying a few extra cheap clothes couldn't hurt. Ethan bought a sun hat, insect repellent, and arm sleeves. As for clothes, he picked up a simple tank top. It was a bit plain, but it would be cool to wear, and he wouldn't mind if it got dirty or torn. "The blue one suits you." Ethan turned around. Grace Parker had approached him at some point without him noticing. She was staring at the blue tank top in his hand. "I remember you used to like wearing that style of athletic shirt when you played basketball." Ethan put the blue one down and picked up a black and a gray one instead. "I don't like that style anymore." Grace Parker turned off her microphone and asked in a hoarse voice, "Ethan, are you still mad at me?" Ethan shook his head. There was no point assigning blame in matters of the heart. It was simply about compatibility, and he and Grace Parker weren't compatible. He and Grace Parker had indeed known each other since childhood. They went to the same elementary school, the same middle school, and even got into the same high school, staying together right up until their senior year. That felt like a lifetime ago. Seeing Grace Parker now brought back memories of their time as childhood sweethearts. They were both 18 then. After the college entrance exams, they naturally got together. They planned to apply to the same university, dreaming of a wonderful college life together, eventually leading from dating to a wedding ceremony. But reality rarely matches expectations. After the exams, Grace Parker was unexpectedly scouted by a film crew and invited to take a small role in a roadshow. At the time, she was looking for a summer job, and since the pay seemed good and the work easy, she accepted. Her natural acting talent quickly caught the director's eye. During the roadshow, Grace Parker discovered a passion for acting and subsequently changed her university application choices. Everyone has different dreams and passions, and Ethan fully supported Grace Parker's choice. What he couldn't accept was that she had lied and hidden it from him. He only found out she had changed her university choice a week before freshman orientation. They didn't break up right away, though. Their universities were 1242, 74 miles apart, and they became a long-distance couple. Initially, Ethan confidently believed that love could conquer all. What was mere distance? But he underestimated the 1242, 74 miles, and overestimated Grace Parker's feelings for him. During her freshman year, Grace Parker signed with a talent agency. Thanks to her stunning looks, she quickly amassed tens of thousands of followers. She began constantly reviewing scripts, determined to nail every scene. After her first TV series aired, she blew up. And with fame came its price. As a newly debuted actress, consolidating her fan base was crucial. The company required her to maintain a single image, and her manager urged her to break up with Ethan. Faced with the choice between love and career, Grace Parker chose her career. During that time, whenever Ethan went online, he was bombarded with shipping content featuring Grace Parker and another male actor. Their relationship was fake promotional CP, but they could publicly display affection, often looking more genuine than he, her real boyfriend, ever could with her. Everyone said they looked perfect together. The internet was flooded with couple edits and lengthy shipping posts about them. Ethan knew it was part of Grace Parker's job, but the thought of her having to act lovey-dovey with different male co-stars on various occasions in the future was something he just couldn't stomach. Therefore, when Grace Parker finally suggested breaking up, Ethan's primary emotion was relief. He had put effort into the relationship, tried his best to be understanding, but reality was harsh. The issues piling up between them had become insurmountable. Ethan, though gentle, could also be decisive. After the breakup, he systematically deleted everything related to Grace Parker, completely excising her from his life. He blocked her number, filtered out all news about her online, and began focusing on his studies, preparing for grad school, determined to pursue his own dreams. Until he met Amelia. They say the quickest way to get over someone is to find someone new, and it turned out to be true. 2 years after the breakup, Ethan had largely put Grace Parker out of his mind. Now Grace Parker was asking if he still blamed her. It felt like a lifetime ago. Even major events fade into trivialities over time. Ethan answered her seriously. Grace Parker, we're in the past. If you don't want me to get absolutely destroyed online, it's best if you keep your distance. He even managed a dark joke at the end. Grace Parker felt a pang in her chest that made it hard to breathe. She would rather he blamed her, hated her even, than see that look of calm acceptance on his face. Ethan, do you really not care about me anymore? We've known each other for so many years. Now that you've called off your engagement, and I'm single too, can't you give us another chance? The moment she heard Ethan had called off his engagement, nobody knew how ecstatic she felt. She canceled all her work commitments and secretly joined this show behind her agency's back, all for the hope of getting back together with him. They used to understand each other better than anyone. She knew all his likes and dislikes. Surely, no one was a better match for him than she was. Ethan shook his head again. Grace Parker, you know what I'm like. When it's over, it's over. I don't simp.